the heart and soul of our sport, where these players strive to become who they're truly meant to be.
No more break, it's time for action. Welcome to Overwatch Contenders.
Hello and welcome everybody. We're kicking off our week here at Contenders with a little bit of European action here as things are getting down to the wire. We got a lot of teams hanging on by just a thread over here in EMEA, but that just means more excitement for us, doesn't it?
Yeah, it should be exciting for some, somber for others, unfortunately, of course, as we're getting down to the wire, like you said. But yeah, we've got a great day of games here ahead of us. Really excited to jump into things. The first one, of course, I think we're starting things off on a big high. Raspberry Racers taking on Team Peps, two teams in the race right now, trying to lock in their spot to make it into that playoff bracket. 0-4 Dash in that second match, still looking on the hunt for just their first win in the round robin stage, taking on Ataraxia, another team in that top 8 conversation right now.
Yeah, this first round is going to be vitally important for setting the tone for the rest of it. As of right now, there are still 8 teams, or a few teams, with undecided spots, right? Teams that don't quite know where they're going to end up. But after this round, we'll know a little bit more about, okay, are the bottom 2 decided? Are there a couple that are really fighting for a spot? Because up until now, it's been the top 4, all safe. Yeah. SRP check up have been solidified. Everything beneath them is murky water.
Yeah, still obviously some discussions to be had whether, you know, what the seeding is going to look like by the time we get through the rest of the matches yet to be played, of course, with those top 4 even. But yeah, they are locked, ready to go. And those last 4 still up for grabs, like you said. Those teams on the bottom as well, like 0-4 Dash that we mentioned earlier, still really just kind of seeing if they can punch their way up. And I will say as well, by the way, there is a universe, I think, right now where 0-4 Dash could still make it despite not having wins coming into the final week of the round robin stage. So who knows? I mean, miracles can happen. I think it would be a long shot, but still something that's out there for them.
No, they're not mathematically out of it yet. They've got a first round to decide that. When we get to them later, I think we'll have a decision made for them. I think this round very much could do it. But like we said, every team is kind of in the running here, and one of the teams that really needs a win right now is the Raspberry Racers, who's popping up first on our screens, and they've been in a bit of a murky situation. They had a really tough strength of schedule in the beginning. They took a couple of losses that were close, and at the same time have been little pickpockets, taking maps off of every team they go up against, including Twisted Minds being, I think, the only team to
only one
pull off that incredible bit of whatever. But it hasn't really reflected in their match history, has it?
Yeah, no, unfortunately, they've been taking a map, but not the series. And luckily, I think for them, if they're in a somewhat fortunate situation, the fact that a lot of the teams that are underneath them, they've beaten pretty handily those 3-0s that we've seen them have. This is obviously a very talented team that has just had a couple of rough spots and need to figure out how to iron those last kind of details out before we see them start punching a little bit higher. Of course, they're going to be taking on one of those teams that they need to punch up to, Team Peps. On the other side here, 4-4 is their record coming into the final week of round robin, and you can see the name recognition, the power. This is always the thing that we talk about with this team, but this is a team that you expect to do well. They've been kind of middle of the pack so far, and hopefully, I think, same thing for them, you know, just ironing out those last few details.
I mean, for me, this is a major do not write off either team match, right? Team Peps coming in 4-4, but there's a bit of a stipulation there. Their last 3 matches have all been losses, and not necessarily easy ones to take either. Peps has been on a bit of a rough streak, and I think coming into this week, they want to fix up a lot of things. That way, when they go into playoffs, it's on a bit more of a clean slate. They figured out how they want to play around Mulfig, right? When they can play that Ramattra and they can play that Diva, they look incredible. Mulfig's got the Winston he can fall back on, but it's proven less than reliable in some situations, especially going into the matchup today where you're playing arguably the best Winston in EU in J. Karu on the other side.
Yeah, still a lot of questions, I think, still at this stage for Team Peps, because, yeah, it's a team that you would expect to contend with those top 3, top 4. I guess we could really just solidify it now as a top 4. However, yeah, all of their losses have come to teams in that bracket there. Of course, they are still waiting to, you know, try their might, or test their might, I guess, against one of the other teams. But Team Peps is still a team that, yeah, there's a lot of power there. There's a lot of potential. The ceiling is very high. We know what they can do historically as well, but now it's what can you do for me today? That's what truly matters, because what happens today could very well determine, first of all, if they even make it into the bracket. You'd expect that a team at 4-4 would probably find their way at this stage, but hey, anything can happen.
Yeah, this final day leaves a lot up in the air, and even for the teams that are 4-4, like you said, there's plenty there. Raspberry Racers on the other side is quite the opposite, right? Their record doesn't really indicate their likelihood of making it into those qualifiers because they've already made so many of those mistakes early. They've got a lot of the teams to make it up against today. There's plenty on the board, fortunately for them in this match. The first map will be Oasis, which leaves a lot on the table to start things off on the right foot on a very important day.
Yeah, definitely an interesting start here. Oasis, a map that we don't often see, of course, because, well, teams didn't like picking it as much as of late, but also it's not typically in the map pool as much as we see other options. So this is definitely going to be something a little bit outside of the typical mix that you'd see for either of these two teams. But what I will say is that certain sections of this map, certain sub-maps here are going to favor either side. Obviously, when you look at some of these maps where you see that Winston favorability coming through, obviously you're going to expect that Raspberry Racers should have a pretty profound advantage there. However, there is that one spot there on University where I think Team Peps could really surprise depending on what we see them coming out with.
Yeah, Oasis feels like neutral territory. And again, the kind of story of these maps in general is going to be Ramatra strong, Peps is favored, the Winston strong, Raspberry Racers are favored. But neither of these teams, as opposed to what they've previously been, are locked into anything. Wolfig, we traditionally think of as that off-tank player. J-Karu, we traditionally think of as that Winston player. Last week, we saw J-Karu play like 5 tanks in one match. It was incredible. Literally multiplied by 5 the number of tanks that he played in the entirety of the last season in a singular match. So a lot's thrown up in the air here as well. Like I said, Molfig was playing the main tank, bringing out that Winston. They're expanding their pools. I don't think you're looking at a match where you expect them to take each other's maps again, because Molfig has been traditionally so high atop the off-tank mountain, and J-Karu has been so traditionally on top of the Winston mountain. It'd be kind of a monumental feat for either of them to beat one another on their given compositions. But I've seen crazier things said and done in a U.
You know what? Kind of following that vein of conversation, I think it's interesting when we look at especially EMEA as opposed to any other region, because when I look at this and we talk about the developments of the tank, the hero depth, everything like that, the versatility that we've seen coming out, you'd expect to think, oh yeah, we have seen a lot more versatility, teams realizing, hey, we can't just kind of one trick a comp, but then there are teams like Aya and SR Peak Check sitting there in the top 4, and that's kind of oddly just an EMEA thing, it seems like, where you have these teams with identities that have locked in and other teams, trying to find that kind of same thing. But getting ready to jump in here. Chat predictions. It's your time now in the chat. 1 for Raspberry Racers, 2 for Team Peps. We're getting things started here on Oasis, but this opening, this is one that I think is, as far as all of these submaps go, probably the most neutral that we are going to get here.
Raspberry Racers aren't going to offer up anything neutral. J-Karu is coming out on a ball. We saw it for, I think, one map last week, half of a map, if that. Post that match, we were interviewing J-Karu, asking about, is this versatility something that they were expecting to bring to the table? He said no, they were wanting to focus on the Winston, but it just worked out for the series that they were trying to play for counters. Looks like they've recognized that, that worked last week. Let's see if it works out for us again. They roll out onto the point with a pretty heavily mobility-focused composition. Peps will garner a bit of control to start things off, but once Raspberry Racers starts making and rotating those dives in and out, the pressure's really going to start to be applied to backline members like Cronus and FD God, who are already being hunted down now. Sojourn can peel for just a while. This hallway offers up a bit of safety for a moment, and a moment is extended to even longer as on Draco falls. Alexi, though, eventually does dig his claws deeper in with a focusing beam, allowing Raspberry Racers to hook onto the point.
Draco is on the way back too, just to get into this fight yet again after being brought back out, but Raspberry Racers, a great job of just turning that fight back around. And one thing I think that we also haven't really talked about too much is this backline and just how interesting it is that Draco here is on the Lucio. They have basically an undivable backline here, so Raspberry Racers should, in theory, be pretty solid against a rush composition as long as they played this well. Obviously, Draco not historically a Lucio player, but let's see what he can do.
I don't know, man. Peps have made an adjustment here in bringing FD God and Cronus onto Brigana. They think it's safer than the Lucio Baptiste. Thus far, it's proving so, but more so because Hybrid on this Sombra is going to be a real nuisance to the rest of this dive from Raspberry Racers, who are forcing out a duplicate, but we actually use this. We have no tank to engage. It's kind of just Cloud, now pocketed by 3 supports. Yeah, that's not going to do anything.
Hard to pocket getting one shot. That is a difficulty that I think pretty much is insurmountable, but Raspberry Racers looking to hang on here. This is just going to be a question of how long can they hang on. I think turning this fight around would be pretty difficult, especially with EMP and Blizzard on the horizon.
If they can pull one of those, though, it'd be nice. It'd be a bit of a miracle, but even in between then, look at that. Yeah, they get a Blizzard for their troubles. That's so worthwhile. They get up to 70%. This comp, like you said, with that backline between Gustav and Andreko, can stagger for years, so Peps recognize they've got to stop the bleeding.
Yeah, and on top of that, even if you are able to get one of those random kills onto Andreko, which has happened, what, 2 times now, if I'm not mistaken, both times Andreko has fallen, immediately gotten res back up. Immediately gotten res. So now we're going to be seeing a little bit of a swap up. This is going to be over on the side of Raspberry Racers. Gustav now switching over to match the Brig from FD God. So what was once an Undevil backline, certainly I wouldn't say the same here, but there is a lot of boot potential, so they can stave them off. That doesn't change.
These hacks from Hybrid have been so lethal, though. JKar's having a really hard time getting in. Fortunately, with the mines, making that space does become a bit easier. A lot of pressure on a Molfig as he's separated away from his backline. Has to use the D-Mech. Can we get the remech kill? No, the shield. Woo, just distancing away from the damage. Raspberry Racers now looking for a position to stage from, but as they step in, it's a Maywall immediately cutting off the likes of Gustav, keeping the healers away from that front line that oh so desperately needs the resources in the Raspberry Racers squad. Cloud can trade a little bit back here, but there's been no offensive from the team in green. They haven't been able to take that space forward, and Cronus and FD God remain relatively unscathed.
Got a peel there from Team Peps, especially after the massive backfire that was the EMP from Hybrid, pulling it out, immediately dying, then Team Peps having to play with 4. We're seeing yet another swap from Raspberry Racers, and this is a bigger one. Jakaru over to that Winston, Andreko also pivoting to the Ana. You see this scoreline here, 83%. This means Raspberry Racers has to be perfect here from here on out.
I like the swap timing, though, right? They win in the last fight, used their ultimates, forced a lot of them out of Team Peps. They get a relatively clean swap off without losing too much ultimate charge for it. So this should be a quick engage that still remains relatively even despite the swaps having gone through. But there's nothing to follow up this dive from JKaru quite yet. Alexi goes for that classic Ana dupe into the nade, but nothing's really found of it. The Winston's forced back again as Raspberry Racers will need to stage yet another time, this time into a Blizzard. An even more difficult task. A Pulse Bomb is a prayer right now from Cloud for some sort of reprieve in this fight, but it's just not coming. Peps are resilient as ever, and with the rally, it's going to become even more impossible to tackle this backline.
Oh, especially now Andreko falls. Now Team Peps in control. They're just buying time as well. They've got Nano Boost. They've got the kill onto Andreko, which is probably more important than anything else. But guess what? They've got the map, or at least this round. That's a very strong start for them. I'll tell you what, though. That actually looked like a pretty solid effort from Raspberry Racers. I think that really came down to just unfortunate circumstances and execution where we saw the Pulse Bomb, it didn't hit. We saw a pretty solid setup on Draco, was very close to having the Nano Boost. We saw Lexi go and try to build that Nano Boost. Any one of them getting that Nano in time to get it over to Jakaru could have shifted the fight. Cloud landing the Pulse Bomb after last week where Cloud was like 80% Pulse Bomb attach rate, was getting like 7 Pulse kills a map.
It was crazy.
And he just didn't connect. I mean, that kind of stuff is like Raspberry Racers. Honestly, I think I didn't give them enough of a shot in that fight than what they actually wound up having. But now they're down a sub map. Let's see what they can do here on round number 2.
Unfortunately for them, University shows up, which is pretty much the dream pick here for map number 2 for Team Peps.
Yeah, it doesn't really get much better for Team Peps here. You would have to imagine, but Raspberry Racers, we've already talked about how Jakaru has been testing the waters on some other tanks.
This would be the ultimate test. Molfig has proven to be one of the most prominent Ramatras in the pool right now. Zakalim would be monumental. Thus far, not going so well as Team Peps also have one of the best front lines to kind of pair with this Ramatra. Naga's May is, at this point, mythic.
Yeah, gonna be tough to get past Naga's May. I mean, you even look back in the history books over time, you know, whatever it may be, Contenders, World Cup, Overwatch League even, that May is legendary for sure. I think you nailed it on the head, but trying to work their way past that is going to be Raspberry Racers. We already talked about trying to, try to get through the gap of Molf, but now you have Naga, and on top of that, Cronus very close to that Amp Matrix. That's going to be a little bit more pressure for Raspberry Racers to have to contend with.
Yeah, it's not just the tanks. This team has been tuned to play this composition. Raspberry Racers step into the plate yet again. Have a second go at things, but the Amplification Matrix throws a real wrench in the mix. Hybrid on the flank, just completely ripping away the health bar of J-Karu. Means another quick fight win for Team Peps. 40% crests over. I don't think I've seen them break a sweat yet here on University.
Yeah. And this is why we talked about this map probably being the most favorable for Team Peps, because we just know how strong they are in comparison, at least, to Raspberry Racers with this composition when they're lined up in this mirror. And now you see this massive differential in the ult economy. This is going to be so important, especially as you see Naga just hiding out. Alexi finds it. There's the Blizzard anyways.
It's crazy that Alexi finds it, but the headshot's hit by Naga. Like, that is just the efficiency you expect out of this May. Blizzard forces them back, but like you said, Raspberry Racers had sprung the trap earlier. Unfortunately, there's another trap, and another trap, and another trap, and more ultimates, and more walls. Dude, Team Pep, they're cruising. There is not a speed bump in their way on this road to a first map win.
I mean, the good thing there, too, was that Gustav had to pull the sound barrier out just to save from Naga's Blizzard. So by the time Team Peps tried to actually go ahead with the commit, Raspberry Racers didn't have defensive options. And here again, Team Peps have a ton of sustain, annihilation, sound barrier, and a pick.
Well, then the picks there, even if Raspberry Racers try to engage, Peps have all the space in the world to disengage away from something like a Blizzard. They can just back up pretty calmly. J-Karu tries to rush to the point, does actually find a bit of purchase, but as he drops down, all that zoning goes away. Blizzard down, tank out of the way, 99% to 0. Team Peps have made a wash of University.
And think about this, too, just to put everything into perspective. When you talk about the totality of that first map, Molf, 0 deaths. Not just in that second round, but also in the first one. 1 death for Hybrid, 1 for Naga, 1 death for Cronus. FD God had the highest deaths on the team at just 2, across 2 entire rounds of control. That is a devastating start for a game for Raspberry Racers, a team that has just had a couple of tough losses, actually more than a couple at this point.
And pretty much all those picks were just in that one first fight that they lost to the ball composition. The one way I would just describe this team's play right now is that they're sturdy. I mean, yeah, they're finding picks where they look great on their Ramatra composition, but even when they were playing D.Va, they just didn't die. They died infinitely slower than a team in Raspberry Racers that was designed compositionally to die slowly with that ball composition, which is just insane. Their backline remained untouched the entire time. Let's take a look at that damage taken stat. Actually, between Cronus and FD God, a combined 5,000. Draco and Gustav aren't too far off in that regard, but the fact that Cronus and FD God were the ones being dove onto for a majority of that game and still were matching in that regard is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, I think Molf obviously played way out of his mind as well, not even really taking too much pressure, really opens things up for Cronus and FD God as well, because they can actually afford to put more resources into their DPS. It allows them to play more aggressively, or they can also go ahead and try to get out more pressure themselves. I mean, FD God had, what, 50% more damage dealt than his counterpart on the other side. Obviously, there is an asterisk there in the tune, or rather to the tune of the fact that we did see a Mercy, so it's not that big of a deal, but it is something that does matter in the grand scheme of things, because as far as pressure goes, when you're winning fights, there was just a lot more of it coming out of Team Peps through and through.
Yeah, now we look towards map number 2, which is, I think, by far, bar none, the most important map in this series for Raspberry Racers to pull this one around. If they are to prove what we're hoping for them to prove, in that it is a lot down to map pick, it really does come down to which compositions they play. Taking things to Eichenwald, where we're going next, is absolutely the best play for them. Peps, though, still have their chance to swing the bat at a composition with this Winston, likely on the B point. See if they can answer what Raspberry Racers has to offer, because so far it's been a lot more of the inverse.
Yeah, you know, this is such an interesting map, too, because we've seen this conversation go back and forth, not just, you know, over the years, obviously, but of course, even just in this summer series event as well, where we've seen teams, you know, really siding on it as a Winston dominant map, and I think a lot of people would agree with that, but there are some teams that like to pull out things like Ramatra here and feel like that is actually a pretty solid composition to actually play into Winston's, especially if you get over to point B. It's very difficult to set up dives into that final stage of the map if you can get a stop with the cart on the other side of the bridge. So this is going to be an interesting one, because while I would say Raspberry Racers should feel pretty confident here, there are some elements to this map that I think can actually throw a wrench in their plans.
Yeah, I'm not certain Hybrid has the map pool for them to really force Peps to play Winston somewhere. That's the struggle for them. Should they win this one, I think things are looking up, because then you get that fourth map pick should things continue to go back and forth of being pushed. Then you can push things over to Esperanza. Things look fantastic, hunky-dory for you. But if you lose this, then you say win third on Escort and you try and find a way to force Winston there, well then the trouble goes to they can force away from Esperanza on your push map, which again doesn't feel particularly great. So for me, again, this really is a turning point. Even if it's not the ideal map order, map pick, map pool for Raspberry Racers in Hybrid, it's the most optimal place to pick up the win to give them better odds later in the series where the maps can be better for them.
Yeah, certainly I think things start picking up a little bit once you, obviously can go into push, and Raspberry Racers should feel pretty confident about if they can win here, they can at least force Esperanza there. And, there's definitely, I think, a hope still, a significant amount of hope left in the tanks there for Raspberry Racers, even after a pretty deflating start. But hey, look, it's Control. It's just one map. There's still a lot of opportunity left on the table here. Raspberry Racers have certainly been, these players and this team has been in this position before where they've been able to turn series like this around. So we'll see what they can accomplish here. I'm definitely looking at Cloud more than anyone else, I think, right now, as we saw Raspberry Racers last week. And even throughout this entirety of the summer series, Cloud has been an absolute top performer, especially on things like the Tracer. And guess what? He's going to be playing here on Eichenwald probably throughout the entire map.
Yeah, we're getting that Tracer out. No more messing around with ball compositions. No more swaps to be had. Just start off on the Winston, see how it goes. Team Peps will offer up a Winston for their attacking side. Honestly, I know we're addressing the swaps from Raspberry Racers, but this is more so a test of the team in white.
Yeah, definitely. Team Peps both on the Winston, setting up for this classic sort of dive composition against a team with Jakaru on it. That's going to be a lot to ask of anyone, including Molf, who came out of retirement somewhat recently and is now being asked to do this. We'll see. We'll just see how it goes. That's pretty much how I'm going to put that.
Yeah, talk about jumping in the deep end, right? Throw yourself to the Sharks and see what happens. Jakaru, though, playing a positional game, backing away to the point, just absorbing the pressure that Team Peps offer up. Dive from Molfig is onto Alexi, who peels away with the coach gun. It's just a primer dive, though. Jakaru tries to counter it, but he eats a lot for it. I think Molfig may have just gotten the better of him, to be completely honest. Molfig goes for a staging dive. Jakaru, I think, misread it, tried to go for a full-on counter dive, but there were 4 members ready and waiting to take his health bar away from him.
So already, I guess, the test, first question at least, passed with flying colors for Team Peps, and Molf at the helm as well. Able to just kind of walk right over Raspberry Racers, finishing the job with Cloud at the end there, which certainly allows for Team Peps to actually send a few of their members forward, leave FD God back, and start actually positioning for some of that staging towards the top of the castle. And that's going to be highly important here, because they need to try to impact that position as much as they can before they go for a fight. Otherwise, Molf is going to be in a ton of danger once they go for an engage.
This does get a lot harder, right, for Team Peps to actually push into. It's hard to get the hack off for the Sombra. That was the big thing that killed Jakaru in the previous fight, was just an inopportune hack that left him with his pants down on a missed dive. See how hard it is for Hybrid to actually land that. Either way, Hybrid is 75, 85% up to an EMP. They may not have to rely on a manual hack. They can just pop that EMP the second Raspberry Racers go for an engage and focus down either the backline or the tank. The world is really their oyster in that regard. So far, it's the backline. Cloud falls, and that's without the EMP.
Yeah, this is not a solid start here for Raspberry Racers. They haven't gotten a single limb yet.
Little trade back one. FD God falls. Fortunately, it's traded for Andraco, but the Nibus did go down onto Jakaru. There's a moment where you can still look to get something done here, but in the meantime, it's just Raspberry Racers bleeding out cart progress bit by bit as Molfig continues to extend this fight further. Force another pick out of this. Jakaru is doing his best to match on the other side, and Raspberry Racers may have a moment to step forward here. Boy, that was looking rough for a while until Team Peps overextended.
sigh of relief, I think, for Raspberry Racers, because this is where things start to look a little bit better for them, or rather, it should start to look a little bit better for them. They have that high ground control where they have Alexi on that signature Ashe pick, it seems like, in this meta, but they still have to deal with this EMP. They're spreading for it, though.
Tanana, singularly targeted by Team Peps. There's an opportunity here for a counterplay from Raspberry Racers, though. They have a lot of ultimates to boot going into this one. Throwing a bomb into the backline, popping the rally to resustain themselves on the high ground. Those two ultimates allow them to take down the tank for Team Peps and equalize this fight. In fact, it should be enough to take it all together.
This is what I'm talking about here, Dor. When I say that this section of the map is so difficult to get once you're on this Winston composition, you really need to overpower an enemy team. You can't be making trades at all. You have to be decisive. You have to find those kills. This is a good start, but it has to continue here for Team Peps if they want to continue this progression forward. And look at the cart. It is pushing.
It's just sneaking across here. Where's the contest? It's got to be Cloud. Cloud needs to be matching that Tracer. Finally peels back to the cart. It's Jkaru who's matching, giving up a lot of the space
not
that
matching at the
Raspberry...
same time.
Exactly, yeah, that's why you send the Tracer. They sent the Winston, they lost all the space, and now they're just getting hammered on from distance. Cronus is completely uncontested on this Ana, and that alone should be enough to take the fight.
That is a macro miscue if I've ever seen one there from Raspberry Racers, and that is not what you want to see from a team that is just hanging on by a thread right now towards the bottom of the standings. And Team Peps on this composition, it seems to be working out well for them. They are just all over Raspberry Racers here. Got their backs against the wall. It's going to be hybrid. Pretty close to yet another EMP, but it's going to be Molf that I'm going to be looking at here, just as well as Naga, of course, on the flank. But Molf is going to be the one to do the damage.
I mean, it's a dream set of ultimates to come into this fight with. Nano boost onto the monkey, immediate kill, no recourse from Raspberry Racers, no sustain ultimates, no peel ultimates. There's still a primal rage should you want to extend this thing further. And now Raspberry Racers are walking out into an EMP. I mean, just lay your head under the guillotine yourself, why don't you?
Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing to do here if you're Raspberry Racers other than pray and hope for a miracle. They do have a couple of ults to use, but like I said, they're going to need a miracle.
We need that Jkaru Primal Blade yesterday. EMP comes out. You know what? Almost a whiff, but no, the Nano Boost isn't enough to save Gustav. A hack can't stop the Primal Rage from coming out, but a sleeve certainly can.
Oh, Cloud not even able to get off the Pulse Bomb. 252. The time bank here for Team Peps. We were starting this entire map off with a large amount of concern for Team Peps and what they were going to be able to accomplish with that Winston composition, especially going head-to-head into Raspberry Racers, because we know what Jkaru is capable of on any team that he's been a part of playing Winston. And oh man, I gotta say, my concern is definitely flipping over to the other side at this point.
Yeah, it's looking difficult for more than just mechanical reasons as well.
Yeah,
Team Peps,
exactly.
yes, they've been running circles in that regard, but macro, something that I think Raspberry Racers have done particularly well. This split has been a nightmare. You don't expect to see that from this team in particular, and yet here we are, getting, I think, circles run around them, largely by the fact that there is a Sombra on the other side, and they simply lack the ultimate firepower to match what that brings to the table.
Yeah, and speaking of matching, I mean, I think that's oddly one of the things that we're missing a little bit from Raspberry Racers. We're not seeing them actually mirror out certain elements of Team Peps, namely the Tracer. You saw all of that cart progress basically for free for Team Peps, and then Cloud wasn't really able to get into a position, forced Jkaru to get out of position, and then Raspberry Racers basically folded after that because they had been down a player to begin with. So I mean, things just did not go well at all for Raspberry Racers, especially in a section of the map, like I've mentioned about 100 times already today even, should be defensively favored with these compositions if things go mostly all right.
Just to think over, Raspberry Racers on the attack, already beginning their staging phase, but into this Team Peps composition, it will be difficult. Cronus and FD God have done a fantastic job of keeping each other alive through these really tough Raspberry Racers dives, but it's going to be real tough after you've already eaten one sleep onto the brig. Molfig is getting put in a corner right now. They'll just wait out that Nemesis form. Raspberry Racers very patient in their approach to this fight. See if they're rewarded quite yet. A couple melees trying to slowly pull away the health bar of Gustav, but unfortunately that's just not going to work. That initial pick seems more than enough to get Raspberry Racers across a finish line here.
Yeah, it looks like Raspberry Racers going to be able to secure this one. This is looking a little bit better for them now that they're able to kind of control the tempo a little bit themselves. Team Peps be looking for that high ground control now as they're sitting atop the castle. Raspberry Racers not able to get into a position early on, and that actually could be important here as Team Peps are going to be able to go ahead and drop in on them at their own whim.
Team Peps don't have any intention of dropping. They will take them on even footing. I'm not sure that's a great plan. Raspberry Racers have a nice attempt here. They've got a beautiful position to take this from. Lots of cover for their backline to use, most notably, whereas Team Peps are kind of fully exposed as they walk into this fight, and they've paid the ultimate price for it. At least to start things out, Jkaru is low as he falls back, but again, that initial pick still weighs on the backs of Team Peps.
They're on the time bank as well. Raspberry Racers, they're racing right now, but they still have that 252 to match. You do see Cloud finally connecting here with the pulse bomb. We've been waiting on that, but now more than ever, Raspberry Racers, I mean, it basically becomes a requirement where they're going to have to rely on things like that just to be able to match that pace that Team Peps set, especially knowing full well that Peps got to be coming up on some of that economy pretty soon here, namely the EMP. How are you going to be able to answer that, especially as you get into the most dangerous section of the map for an offensive team?
I mean, early pick, dupe maybe is what you're looking for here early in the fight, and that's it! Molfig down! Raspberry Racers pounce. If Jkaru just lives through this anti-nade, they're gonna be alright. He peels back, knows he has the Primal Rage to re-engage this fight with should he need it, but the cart will continue to progress uncontested. The time bank was big for Peps, but we need to invent new big words for what Raspberry Racers are currently putting up. It's gonna be like six... Biglier. Thank you. Like, if this is like a 6-minute time bank heading into C, that is ridiculous. Gustav's traded back, and you know what? Team Peps are coming back with ultimates. The rally should give them a foothold on to this point, but they still haven't found enough kills to really tick the meter over.
Oh, it's definitely going to make it a little bit easier once you have these two Winstons just primaling. One gets taken out of dupe, and the other one gets slept, so that makes it a little bit easier to deal with if you're Team Peps, but still... they're looking to deal with Jkaru. That is going to be the person that they are looking for more than anything else, and Raspberry Racers recognize this. They pull back, but guess what? There's another attempt. It's on the horizon, just waiting for Raspberry Racers to pull that go button.
Well, the real trouble right now, it's dealing with this backline. Look at Andraco, just firing in shots, damage, healing, nano boost from above, completely uncontested on the Ana. Cronus, unfortunately, does not have the liberty of such a beautiful position to play from and pays the ultimate price for it to start the fight off. Raspberry Racers are easily going to be able to leverage that one into a B take.
I have to imagine that they're going to be able to come up with a couple of kills here as well, or at least apply some really significant pressure. But yeah, they would love a kill right now. That would that would make such a difference for Raspberry Racers pushing into this final section of the map. Fortunately for them, they don't find it, but there's still opportunity for them. Cloud with the pulse bomb. We saw him connect earlier on the last one to see if he can find another.
Because they didn't get that pick, it's now a 2-fight point. At least as it stands. Molfig is allowing a bit of cart progress to come through. Has already had the Nemesis form forced out, so a quite early win for Raspberry Racers. Unfortunately, they still haven't dealt with that EMP. They trade 2 back in the midst of it, though, and maybe things aren't so over off the back of just that one ultimate. Hybrid landed it onto virtually everybody, but Raspberry Racers just come in with seemingly infinite firepower. Jkaru, Andraco, Gustav, all still up. A squad that can sustain on this cart for a very long time, but they're pushing in to a ridiculous spawn advantage from Team Peps. And they, though! Naga's down! They've got no damage. Team Peps has no way into this fight. Molfig's just got to sustain and pray, but that pulse bomb is miles away.
Oh, this is so dangerous for Team Peps. They're trying to push FD God onto the cart and does manage to do it for some time. But look, Team Peps, they have the respawn advantage, but it might not be enough here.
It's not gonna. There's no chance. Naga's trying desperately to get the touch in, but Molfig can't possibly come back quickly enough. 2:07 to 2 minutes. This Eichenwald's as close as they get. But oh my goodness, what a clutch play. Not only the team play required to counter dive that EMP and still manage to trade out every last one of those kills, but that Hail Mary nade from Andraco that took down Naga. Naga was the critical player for Team Peps, continuing that hold to stagger it out. And the fact that they just lost all their damage and a lot of their cart contests, massive.
And that's the interesting thing about Raspberry Racers, too. I think when you look at this team, obviously we talk so much, we spend so much time talking about all the different elements. Jkaru, Cloud keep coming up, but Andraco is another one that can be an absolute game wrecker if given opportunity and space to do it. We did see last week a couple of moments where Andraco was getting first death a few times, because that's just the case when you're talking about these types of compositions and you're playing Ana. you are likely going to be a target. If not you, then maybe the Winston or the Brig, but oftentimes you do find yourself under heavy pressure as an Ana. So yeah, Andreko was falling, but when given space, Andreko was devastating opponents with insane amounts of pressure through utility, and we're seeing that happen yet again. In fact, I think we're seeing a little bit more of that here today than we even did last week.
And now as we head into the second round of Eichenwald, pressure's really on Andreko to keep J-Karu up. J-Karu, after a not insignificant misstep on the first point, gave it up pretty quickly, but if Raspberry Racers can fix that one mistake and put up a decent time bank here for A, I think they'll feel like they're in a really good position to round this map out.
See what they can do here. Team Peps just trying to get into a position where they can set up for a dive. Trying to do something with their 2 minutes that they have allotted to themselves. You can see Raspberry Racers shifting, constantly looking for what that target is going to be for Team Peps. Readying for that counter dive.
J-Karu didn't take the bait this time, though. Wolfig dives up for that prep dive and doesn't get it out of J-Karu, correcting on the mistake from earlier. Now there's a much better position to dive in from Raspberry Racers. J-Karu's got a lot more support behind him, but even that's not enough. Team Peps throw all the damage at the Winston player. Wolfig's eating a bit of it back, but a pulse bomb from Naga very rightly could end this one. Gustav down, Raspberry Racers lacking any sort of hold to get back into this fight. Andreko can dish out some damage from the side here, but Nana on her own isn't going to get anything done.
Yeah, you see Molf taking a little bit of a snooze, but Team Peps, they can afford that at this point. Draco gonna fall pretty late. J-Karu probably gonna be falling here as well. But you see this time bank now. Team Peps do have a little bit to work with now. I mean, at this stage, if Raspberry Racers somehow get up into Team Pep's face and they're able to apply some pressures through Alexi or Cloud or even just having Andreko from that high ground that we've seen from him before, Team Peps can lose a fight and actually set up and prepare for even another one. So this is good news for them, depending on the timing of this. At this stage, it may be a little bit too late for that to happen. So now it's all or nothing for Team Peps if they want to continue this push, but luckily for them, it's the EMP.
I suspect Raspberry Racers did this intentionally, right? Waiting out that time bank so that they could get a final fight. They're smart enough to do that. Their macro play, like we said, has historically been good. It's been a bit shaky today, but in that regard, it's perfectly fine. See how the EMP lands. Hybrid in position, can't actually find anything more than one target, and even the one target that he is finding great. It's the Brig at the end of the day, and Nano Boost to save her life. The Raspberry Racers have completely deflected this dive. Oh, Molfig! Oh no! Dives everywhere, primaling frantically, spaghetti all over the floor. Now a rally to sustain the point even longer, has just hand-delivered a Brig to his Tracer. What is happening for Team Peps? It's all falling apart.
I will say there's a silver lining at the very least. Obviously, yeah, a little bit of an unfortunate ending, a conclusion to what was a pretty solid attempt at some OT pushing. Silver lining, of course, being that they did cap point A. They did get some distance covered. I mean, with 2 minutes, that's as much as you probably could ask for, especially for a team that I would say Molf isn't a primary Winston player. So
no.
That went as well as it probably would have gone in any version of the multiverse, right? But now it's about getting a stop here. Something that we didn't really see a lot of from either team defensively is getting a stop. So there's going to be a lot on the line here for Team Peps, and you're seeing them make a little bit of a shift here strategically, keeping in that Sombra, but Molf has now gone over to the Ramatra yet again, and not obviously starting with matching that Winston v. Winston. But I like this. It allows them to kind of brawl more effectively, and Raspberry Racers know that they don't have as much time to set up here, so I think they're going to be wanting to go a little bit earlier, which might actually goad them into getting into a brawl, which Team Peps would actually very much like, especially if they can apply pressure through Naga or Hybrid onto Andreko and Gustav, because then resources start getting very, very dismal for everybody else on Raspberry Racers.
I mean, are we sure that's going to happen historically? I mean, Hybrid's been here basically just cyberbullying J-Karu with hacks for a large majority of the game, so I don't think that game plan's changing. Though you're right, I think if paired with the Nemesis form that's been uncontested from Molfig, where Molfig's just running into the back line, you get a hack off there. It's really dangerous territory. That's not quite positioned to do so, though, as Raspberry Racers play their footsies to gain their initial position. Back back onto Alexi. Allows Jkaru to go in. Raspberry Racers recognizing the opportunity they've been given. And what an anti-nade on Draco again! Has just delivered. Eliminates the entirety of Team Pep's backline with one cooldown. Team Peps do get a couple of trades back though. Jkaru's gone. The tip of the spear now not there to push through the rest of Team Peps as things get real messy.
Just about dealing with Molf. Molf gonna keep the thing, or keep
Easier
the
said
dream
than done.
alive. Oh, he gets slept.
Sleep was just enough to, I believe, save on Draco's life as we now blink onto the point. 2v2. Tracer Ana versus Brig Ana. Jkaru has also joined in the wings here. Raspberry Racers. Just the quicker respawns, a faster composition to get back here on A.
A little bit earlier on the deaths as well helps out a little bit as well, but Raspberry Racers just have to hold this out. I think Team Pep's actually opting to go ahead and give that away. You see this timer now, 50 seconds here for Raspberry Racers. Team Peps, obviously, it's not going to be a high ground affair here at all. They're going to look to try to contest this from mid-ground right at like the opening to the castle and then pushing into those chokes just to try to deny Raspberry Racers any ability to actually get into Cronus's face and just make sure that the fight stays in front of them as much as they can.
30 seconds now to build an EMP for Hybrid is completed. Alexi down. 20 seconds. One more fight for Raspberry Racers. They've got to get Gustav out of here, though. Need to get this backline away. Make sure we give away no more picks.
This is smart from Team Peps. They get another kill on the Cloud, and also look at the timer, 10 seconds. Team Peps going for the jugular.
They strike EMP in, Nemesis form, Annihilation to zone them out of this choke. Raspberry Racers are on the back foot, trying desperately to clamber forward, but it's not happening. Peps at the vital moment go for the finishing blow and find it beautifully.
Remember going into this as well, Team Peps, they've been kind of gatekept out of that top 4. 3 of those opponents that they have played already have given them losses. I mean, that's where they sit right now. So establishing some dominance now in a matchup like this, a Raspberry Racers team that honestly, I would say we would both probably agree in saying that their record is really not indicative of where they're at actually in terms of the overall power of this team and what they can do. So for Team Peps to put on a display like this is monumental, especially for their morale moving forward towards a playoff that they seem destined to make it into.
Yeah, they've continued to just refine this team into what is a really versatile weapon. Molfig, you can't give enough credit to. I mean, the one funny Winston play at the end, but everything else was just lights out, right? Matching Jkaru or outplaying him most every fight on the attacking side. On the defending side, things are, I think, a little bit shakier, but in large part, played a really clean Winston and proved that the series isn't meant to be back and forth for Team Peps. They want to win their maps dominantly and scrape away Raspberry Racers.
And now I think some of those question marks, some of those concerns start getting really raised now, because the whole intent here for Raspberry Racers was win map 2. Who knows what happens map 3, but at least you can pull Esperanza on map number 4. Now at this stage, who even knows what's going to happen, because we've seen this Winston v Winston come out a couple of times. And I wouldn't say Team Peps is all that far behind, if at all, because what we've seen right now is Team Peps certainly seem pretty ready and prepared to go ahead with that Winston composition. But speaking of going ahead, we're going to go ahead to a quick break. When we come back, it's going to be the rest of the series, map number 3 on the other side.
You like solving problems. Problems like how to stop that tracer from deleting your backline. I know just what you're thinking. Go bring a turret. But y'all can't solve all your problems by simply bringing an extra friend to the battlefield. For that, you need the Contenders Torbjorn skin. Solve your problems by connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. After that, watching Overwatch Contenders Summer Series will contribute to your drops progress, letting you claim your Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin. Even your turret gets an upgrade. Warning, the Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin does not come with extra or upgraded turrets. Build instructions will not be provided. By picking Torbjorn, you waive a claim towards any destroyed turrets. No refunds, no exchanges, and no take-backsies.
howdy, and welcome back, everybody, to what has quickly become a Team Pep series. They've been large in charge, not just for the first map, but putting up an incredible performance on map number 2. Yes, it was close, Yurix, but close was a lot better than I think a lot of people were hoping for from Peps.
Yeah, I think for Peps right now, it's just about basically closing the door in this series at this stage. I mean, we're going to go into a map number 3 here. This is kind of really just last-ditch effort, I think, now for Raspberry Racers, because who knows what's going to happen if we do wind up moving past this one into a map number 4, into a map number 5, with Team Peps dictating the maps throughout the entirety of the rest of this series. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. Either way, map number 3, it's locked and loaded. It's going to be Watchpoint Gibraltar taken here. And I guess no surprise, right, Thor? Because this is traditionally, I would say, the Winston map. Not just a Winston map, probably the Winston map.
Well, that's what I was saying. You know, that's what I think all of us were believing until the London incident recently. So
fair. Yeah. Yeah, things happen. I mean, we've even had those conversations here as well with other maps where I think Icon is one of them, where we've talked about how sometimes things shift in the meta and certain elements get added or subtracted and things change over time. So who knows? I mean, wild things happen, I guess we'll say, in relation to that particular thing.
Yeah, the options are open enough here. The Winston's what we expect from both these teams. And honestly, after Team Peps just did that on Eichenwald, I see no reason to stray away from it. Yes, they could try and force the Ramatra in some weird places here. Yes, the Diva is an option if they want to swap to it just for the versatility that Mulfig's can offer in that regard. Well, why not just mirror? If it ain't broke, don't fix it, man.
Yeah, and when you look at the rest of the map pool as well, when you think about, okay, is this really the best map? Well, I mean, yeah, pretty much. I mean, unfortunately for Raspberry Racers, I mean, you've got Circuit, definitely don't really want to go there, especially against Mulf. That is just an absolute no-fly zone. Dorado and Route 66 are the other options, and yes, there are some, I guess, elements that could favor Raspberry Racers there, but this is definitely the best pathway forward for Raspberry Racers who are looking to claw their way back into this series, and I think this is an important one as well for them to at least get some kind of value out of. They really just need to get at least a couple of maps, because here's the thing. There's a lot of teams that are right now tied with them at 2 and 6, or at least near that stage, near that score line. So by upping their map differential, that might actually wind up being a determining factor in whether or not they wind up making their way to a playoff if they can't turn this series all the way back around.
And you know, for a 2 and 6 team, they have a very good map record.
Yeah,
because they've managed to take maps off of every team that they've come up against. But one more literally never hurts. The next 2 matches they have ahead of this, it seems good for them. It seems likely that they end up making it, qualifying, but you really would like to pick one up here, especially not just for pride against Team Peps. I know about you, Hirix, though. I do want to focus in on Gibraltar and focus in on what I think needs to change, because they did just lose Winston v. Winston versus Team Peps. Clearly things need to shift up a little bit, and for me, one of the big things in that is that Cloud's gotta be contesting that Tracer a whole lot more. Especially on Gibraltar, one of the most Tracer escort-heavy maps in the pool, where you need to have your Tracer pushing that cart 24/7 while you're fighting underneath this bridge, etc. Cloud can't be spending so much time in the backline. It is great when he's there, you know, puts up some sick highlight clips, hits sick pulse bombs, but that macro play that we were missing out on from the Tracer v Tracer, where we were giving up a lot of cart progress to Peps on Eichenwald, that cannot happen another time.
Yeah, having that versatility, having that dynamicism to shift between being able to mirror or be able to be that apex predator we know he's capable of being, that's certainly something that we're looking to see Raspberry Racers pull out. That would just be a tremendous value add for them. Here, though, is going to be Peps on the attack to start this one off. And certainly bear in mind that this is 2-0 in their favor this early on.
We get a shift from Team Peps, actually. Naga and Hybrid on Echo and Tracer. This is how you would think they would play Echo and Tracer, but actually in weeks prior, they've been playing Hybrid on the Echo and Naga on the Tracer. And Hybrid has been struggling in that regard whenever they've done that. It's good to see Naga swap back. Hybrid can pick up the Tracer, at least hold his own on it up against Cloud when it comes to pushing this cart, and then allow Naga to do what Naga does best on that Echo.
Well, there you see Jakaru. I mean, it's Jakaru on the Winston, so Jakaru's just doing Jakaru and Winston things. This shouldn't really be
look
too
at the
much
cart
of a surprise
progress
at this point. Yeah, we're still seeing some credit. This is Team Peps doing the exact same thing that we saw from them on Icon B. Here again, now on Gibraltar. And this is, I think, something that needs to be a concern for Raspberry Racers, because while they're looking solid in the team fights here on this map, which is good news, that's a definite shift. Okay, that
nice
definitely
dive.
helps things out.
That looked really pretty. Pins from both sides. Alexi gets a hack off Cloud with the follow-up. They're really starting to put a bit more pressure towards Hybrid, understanding exactly what they're playing into. That first fight's always a bit of a wash, though. The defensive team will often get a win there, despite giving up a lot of cart progress. This is standard for Watchpoint Gibraltar. Now into the next fight, though, we start looking at nano boosts and pulse bombs to be the real deciders. Unfortunately for Peps, Cronus is miles away from that critical ultimate, so Raspberry Racers have a pretty significant advantage stepping into this, which they'll immediately play onto the field. Jkaru does get slept, but I think is far from finished with this nano boost. Has a lot of damage to throw yet onto FD God, which will eventually take him down. Eyes next set onto that Ana, forcing her back into a hallway, taking half that HP, but seems as if the damage should have been done by now as Molfig tries to match what Jkaru just got done with the Primal, but unfortunately it just won't happen.
Team Peps now. Half of their time bank gone. We saw that early pressure come out from Jkaru. Cronus threw out all the utility all at once, which allowed Jkaru to actually get up pretty easily. Just didn't stagger it very much, but there is a massive pick. No Gustav means Raspberry Racers.
And no rally!
Oh, that's huge too. Yeah, obviously Raspberry Racers were going to be down a major feature of this composition, but even more than that, the ultimate is incredibly impactful.
I mean, this just has to be the biggest DMP of all time, right? Like, that's the only... You're playing into like 4 or 5 ultimates. Alexi used it?!
At this point, you have to think they gotta be swapping, right?
It has to be a swap.
It has to be a swap here. Maybe over to the Ashe. We've seen that a few times, but no. No.
Okay.
Yeah, the Echo makes even more sense, actually. Yeah. So going over to the Echo here now. A little bit of a option for contestability onto the high ground is going to make it pretty hard, though, as Team Peps just have all of the momentum.
It's Gustav stepping in the way of that unstoppable force. A far from immovable object, currently. Hog on the high ground. It's a nice dupe as well, just to throw in more damage. Should be a quick fight win here for Peps. The time bank will get extended, and this point shortened by that fight win.
Now Team Peps up on this high ground as well. Just going to make it that much more difficult for a Raspberry Racers team who just made a swap on Alexi to be able to go up there, contest that position. And you can see them all playing from the low ground. This is pretty easily diveable, even as Andraco's trying to work his way off to the side. It's just so much effort to try to insulate him.
Especially when you have so much pressure from the top. Cronus and FD God are completely uncontested. Jkaru's diving up, trying to do something, but look at this. Andraco is just scrambling, looking for some sort of angle to assist the Winston and jumping onto that high ground, but it's Alexi who gets the goods done. Phase out Noggin now can help pressure out Molfig. 250 HP and a Primal Rage now to burn through for Raspberry Racers. Just can't get the finishing kills on the health bars. The damage just hasn't been enough for them. They have 3 ultimates, but they're unwilling to use any of them. A Primal Rage from Molfig is massive. Hybrid follows up with even more pizzazz. Flash, Substance, and Macro all in one. Team Peps are the total package.
This is just not looking good here at all for Raspberry Racers, man. I mean, they had... Talk about the total package. That's what Raspberry Racers had going into that fight. Now they come away from it, they're going to have 4 ults probably ready for this fight, when they really probably shouldn't even let that last point go at all. Now you see Team Peps with over 3 minutes to work with here, and in a great position to actually already have a good spot to dive from, to execute into that backline with. Of course, you have to wonder, Andraco, Jkaru, they're going to connect here on this fight. Can they deal the damage?
I mean, in theory, this is strictly an ultimate advantage for Raspberry Racers. They go in with that Echo, nano boosted up. Alexi, though, just can't find anything, can't deliver the goods. As they fall back, we have to use the duplicate just to extend our life a little longer. Team Peps say, great, we'll see you in 10 seconds.
Yeah, Nano committed from Team Peps, but that's all that they've had to pull out. You still see Jkaru ready to go with that Primal Rage. That could be what actually tips the scales for them, perhaps. But even that's asking for a lot, it feels like.
Yeah, into the rally? I mean, it's a tall ask. Jkaru pops it, but this is really a last-ditch effort. A sleep connects, takes away the latter half of that. Fortunately, Molfig's been traded in all of this action. The Raspberry Racers have made something of it, but it didn't come from the Primal Rage. Instead, came from the backline, bailing out Raspberry Racers.
Yeah, now there's probably a little bit of a growing sense of concern here for Raspberry Racers as they're going ahead, trying to get some value out of what was a really solid effort there to find Mulf inside of Team Pep's own spawn. But now,
man.
Draco falls. What we were talking about happening last week with Draco getting first death, it happens again here. Team Peps with an opening.
I don't even know how Hybrid got there. He just crawled out of the walls to hit that pulse bomb. Absurd scenes as we get a 1-for-1 trade. No Briggs on either side. Unprotected Anas mean the open backlines. Jakar tries to find one, but instead just catches the wrong end of a clip from Hybrid. Jakar progresses forward, storming towards the finish line, a minute 30.
Team Peps going for that high ground. This is smart from them. You can see the replay. Just how Hybrid was able to sneak his way around to the side, get that stick. That's what allowed Team Peps to be in the position that they're in right now. Vying for this fight. Oh, already looking for Alexi.
We're nano boosting Alexi again. I'm not sure if it was to save or to try and play aggressively, but they need to trade this out or get some value out of it. And again, it falls by the wayside. Not but a whisper in the grand scheme of all the noise being made by Team Peps, who back away, waiting for one last engage. Mulf's got another Primal Rage. He got 2 kills with the last one. Most of them have been pretty impressive so far today. Can he get one more to clean up this match?
Oh, Chrono's going to have Biotic coming up soon again here. They waited maybe a little bit too long, and there it is.
Looks solid. We force Sports the back line into a corner on Draco, and Gustav have been pulled away from the fight for a moment, but not long enough for Jakar to be taken down with any real pace. Alexi dupes as well, extending the range of Jakaru even further, who goes in with a nano boost, taking out the back line of Team Peps. It's a big spend by Raspberry Racers, but with 18 seconds on the clock, it looks to have been worth it.
Oh, it looks very worth it at this stage. Team Peps pretty much spending the exact same. And now we see things come to a screeching halt here with Cloud potentially in the driver's seat just to be able to stop Hybrid. Can they do it? They do get the kill, but overtime still ticks. Pulse bomb at the ready, but they might not even need any of this.
Yeah, Mulf down, Hybrid out of the way. They don't have enough damage to really finish this one off. Peps will stop here. That's not to say it's not good progress. Jib is not a map, especially with the changes that they've made to the spawns, that is easily finished. Much less with the time bank. A strong push out of Team Peps, but I think there is no telling how this side goes for Raspberry Races, to be completely honest.
Yeah, there's a little bit more nuance here on display for Gibraltar now that we've seen these adjustments being made to the map, to the level design. But yeah, Team Peps, I think, a real strong start. Got through that middle section of the map and did manage to get some decent distance covered. I will say, though, Team Peps probably are going to be watching this back in VOD review at some point and thinking to themselves, man, we really had a good shot and we just let up a little bit too long while we were looking for a reset, going into what could have been an actual full map take fight, where we saw resources spent by Draco, and then they waited for the entire cooldown to come back before they actually went for their dive. That might have been an opportunity for them.
Fortunately, they come up just a little bit short, which might be fortunate for us if it extends this series into something a little longer. Either way, I think I still want to keep giving props to Mulfig. I mean, the Primal Rages, by and large, were just money. I mean, a 2-piece on B, A, really quality stuff to zone away, trading 1 for 2 ultimates in a lot of situations. It's really consistent stuff, and again, you don't expect it, especially against Jakaru, especially with Mulfig on the Winston.
Not bad, Mulf. Coming out of retirement to deliver some really solid performances on heroes we just didn't really anticipate, I think, before we got into Summer Series at the very least. But Raspberry Racers now setting up for their attack. It's going to be Team Peps just really looking to apply as much pressure as possible. It looks like Jakaru has been consistently the target for a lot of this.
I mean, you can't ignore Jakaru. If you ignore Jakaru will wipe your backline. Speaking of backlines getting wiped, Gustav's down, but like we said, as expected, defenders will hit some sort of hold initially while that cart makes its first progression. If that hold is only 1 kill onto a Raspberry Racer's backline, I think that's something they're pretty okay with.
Not only that, but we also see Hybrid actually doing quite a lot of work on the flank, at least through their attacking phase, but now even here on the defense, Hybrid is pulling a lot of attention from Raspberry Racers here, despite not obviously delivering a ton of damage and a ton of self-delivered pressure. It is still getting a ton of value.
This is when Gibraltar really starts. The cart's pushed up 3/4, both Anas coming up on Nano Boost, but Jakaru's dead! FD Gods traded out as we've nanoed a Brig. But I don't know how much further Gustav can actually get in to make use of that. Raspberry Racers are playing 4v4, yes, but without the Winston, this point is nigh on unassailable.
Oh, Hybrid finding that kill in the Cloud as well. Just poking, prodding, pestering Cloud on the objective and then full committing once we saw that recall go down. And even a little bit of support coming from Raspberry Racers wasn't enough to stop Hybrid in getting that kill. I mean, it was basically the fight over already, but again, we're just talking about that pressure that Team Peps keeps asserting on the Raspberry Racers. I mean, look!
They've been completely shut down. Sticky bombs, Tesla cannon, focusing beam, all chucked into one room with an anti-nade being the cherry on top. It does not get much better.
They had them completely corralled in there. There's nowhere for them to go. If they push through one side, they die.
That's Molf, dude. That's so, dude. He's been absolutely rolling positioning-wise. It's ridiculous.
Now you see 140 on the time bank. As we mentioned before in the last attacking phase, you expect the start of Gibraltar to be a bit rocky as teams set up with the position of the cart into car wash, that under section of that overpass, that bridge area. But now that we're even past that point, we're still seeing a little bit of a speed bump here underneath Raspberry Racers.
Primaration J. Karu came out and did not much of anything. Raspberry Racers have a dupe to try and get something done here. Molfig's in a bit of a sticky situation, but with 1,000 HP, he's not going down anytime soon. Peps have responded in turn with plenty of ultimates. Ikaru's probably alive? Yeah. Oh, goes down. I thought the cooldown would be up by then. Nevertheless, Peps with an incredible hold. 60 seconds on. This is a masterclass, not just in macro, not just in positioning, but honestly, individually, mechanically. Peps has been on a tear. Outside of on Draco, I don't think Raspberry Racers has been able to match in that regard.
I think all Peps fans are watching this match feeling very, very good about their hopes going into a potential playoff bracket, which, again, it seems like they're destined for at this stage. But here we go. Raspberry Racers, they got to make something happen here. Jakaru is slapped. Unlucky.
Hasn't avoided, I think, a single sleep with the nano boost this entire time. And Cronus, credit to him, has been hitting them well, but you'd expect at least one or two to be dodged, but it's just not been there today for Raspberry Racers. 20 seconds on the clock. I think we can start talking about this map being over. Team Peps have so much more distance past this. Even if they overcome this hurdle, Raspberry Racers have a very uphill climb ahead. With one pick, I suppose they can start their trek up to the first base camp.
See Cloud once again in this little duel with Hybrid. This is what we were looking for on an Icon. Now we're getting it a lot here. Both these Tracers just trying to get that positional advantage. Recall down for both, though. This is where things get very dangerous for either side.
Back to 5v5. Peps has recouped their losses and now looks to re-engage. Molfig does the duty, though. Takes down Alexi. It's Cloud with the pulse bomb that could really get the job done. Dives into the back line, looking for a Hail Mary pitch, but unfortunately only finds the receiving end of a whip shot on the opposing brig. Team Peps send a message to, I think, the entire rest of the standings with a ridiculous win over Raspberry Racers.
Yeah, I think a lot of teams are going to be looking at the results after they finish their matches, because obviously teams are playing right now at the same time. So when they get out, they're going to be looking at the standings, wondering how everybody else's first rounds of the week went. And they're going to see this one and they're going to be like, oh, yeah, that's going to be rough looking ahead if we have to face them anytime soon. But even certainly for teams that are going to be potentially playing them beyond this week, that is definitely something on the horizon that I would not be looking forward to.
And it's insane because, again, this isn't a map that, or a game that Team Peps shouldn't have been able to win, right? The surprising fact is just the factor in which they did it, the matter of which they approached this match. When we as casters were prepping for the day, right? We look at these matches, we have our expectations of how we expect them to go, what we expect to see, and this is the quintessential back and forth match that should go map for map. When you have two teams playing opposite compositions, it usually just kind of ping-pongs a lot of the time. Completely shut that down. Peps made sure that that wasn't even a whisper of a chance of happening. We were talking about Esperanza coming out possibly should the map 2 come through like we expected for Raspberry Racers. That didn't even come close to happening. It is absurd the way they flipped this on its head, because even between close teams, even between teams that are spread out by a little bit, when you have opposing compositions, map pick, map order often does do it, and it just didn't even play a factor here for Team Peps, which is very scary for a lot of the teams up at the top who have that flexibility, who often rely on being able to play across all 5 of the maps in a series. Peps is now putting their name in, putting a bid in for being another team that's able to do that, has that capability.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this strategy for this game in particular came down to just denial of Jakaru, and it seems like a lot of times when the moment was large and Jakaru had to do something, it was always denied. I mean, very much consistently denied by Cronus on the other side, really just kind of shutting the door on him completely with sleep darts that were just landing almost every single time you would need it. And you know what? I think at this stage, the only thing that we have left to do with this series is just ask Cronus specifically, why don't we, about what really went down there. I mean, because for us, it seems like this is a team that isn't just on the rise, but potentially a meteoric one. We'll see what he has to say on the other side of this break.
Oh, hello, Fancy Mini You here. It's so nice to see ya. Are you ready to survive the wastelands? Then you'll need to bring your shotgun, your axe, and of course, your knife for your sharp wit, if you get my drift. Hey, whoa. Hold on there. Don't forget to pick up your Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Yeah, gearing up is as easy as connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. And after that, watching the Overwatch Contender Summer Series will contribute to your drop progression, letting you claim your own wasteland-ready Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Oh, that's right. It's time to rampage. Now, get out there and slay with the Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Okay, take care now. See you in chat.
And welcome back, everybody. As always, a quick break is promised. A quick break is delivered. We've got Cronus in for an interview. Cronus, first off, congratulations on a 3-0. You know, we got to talk to you a little bit during the break, and it seemed like we had very differing perspectives on this. Curix and I, you know, we looked at this fundamentally as being something that should have been a back-and-forth series, but for you guys, it seemed like you were just confident going in, like it should have been a 3-0 all along. Walk me through it.
Yeah, exactly what you said. We expected to 3-0 them. I mean, we didn't really expect to like drop any maps because we're just like better on every comp compared to them. So I'd be surprised if we drop maps, you know.
I mean, with where you guys are at in the standings right now, obviously we've seen you guys had, you know, a little bit of an unfortunate section of the round robin stage last week. I mean, is this an opportunity now for you guys to reestablish yourselves as the team that you guys know that you are? Where do you see yourself right now in the standings? Do you think that you're climbing back after some tough losses last week, or where are we at?
Well, we played against like all the top 4 teams last week,
right.
So we expected it was quite like it was mentally stressful, and we expected to lose some of them, Other than that, I think we expect to like finish like 5th after the round robin is done. But yeah.
So with this match now in the books, you feel like you've solidified yourself in the 5th. Hirix and I were talking at the end of the match about how the top 4 has kind of expanded to a top 5 that really are the upper echelon of EU. What do you plan on doing to kind of separate yourselves? Because clearly, as things have progressed, you guys have had the Ramatra comp the entire time. Now you've got clearly a really strong Winston composition that you're bringing to the table. Is that versatility what's going to do it for you, or do you feel like you have something else up your sleeve that sets you apart?
I'm not sure really. I think we just have to play like our comfort comps, in my opinion, and we'll do well. Because if we play uncomfortable comps versus the good teams, we're going to kind of struggle. For sure.
So speaking of the compositions, I mean, something that we have, it's been a major talking point, actually, the fact that we've seen Mulf, first of all, come out of retirement, and then we're seeing, obviously, a lot of commitment to Mulf and playing a bunch of different compositions, and everybody seems to be making swaps, including Hybrid and Naga also made an interesting swap today, swapping roles a little bit with who plays Tracer and whatnot. But, I mean, what's it been like for you guys as a team to try to be as versatile as it seems like you now are in a situation where, I mean, it's probably pretty difficult to find that versatility, right?
Yeah, it is difficult to find versatility, right? But I think our team can play like every hero, so that's the one strength we have over other teams. We can play like every hero in the game at like a high contenders level, and I think that'll push us forward.
Yeah, I mean, that high contenders level was showing today. You guys had Ezreal Racers mechanically outmatched in every regard. I think two notable ways, though. Number one was just the immense pressure that you were putting out. I think it was very clear to see that a lot of the focus was on shutting down Jkaru in virtually everything he did. But I don't think I saw a sleep dart missed onto the monkey the entire series. I just want to take a moment to pat you on the back, because that was absurd. That is a not easily performed task against a player who is so good on Winston.
I mean, you can do it on every Winston, I mean, I wasn't getting much pressure like from their Tracer and stuff, so it's just easy to set up a sleep, They kind of like dived alone a lot of the time. It was pretty easy to punish.
I mean, tell us a little bit about your experience throughout this meta, because obviously as things sort of opened up, we've seen a lot of Anas have differing opinions and like kind of what the situation is, where obviously some teams just apply just insane amounts of pressure. You're pretty much first deathing against them like every single fight, and other teams really don't apply all that much pressure. Is that kind of just been a development as we've seen things change, or is it team by team basis, or what kind of happens there that really shifts the dynamic for you as an Ana player?
I just go team by team. I know I can, like, some teams, like, it's really hard to walk into a monkey bubble and just nade the guy for free, but this team, you can do it most of the time. So, I mean, you just, like, punish their weaknesses, mainly, really.
I love how simple Cronus just makes everything sound every time we bring Cronus.
Just 5k, man. It's just...
Yeah, just hit the nades, hit the sleeps, just don't die to the Winston dive when it's Jake. I don't know, man. It was some impressive stuff y'all put up today. Congrats again on the 3-0 win. Congrats again on picking up that momentum. Should mean you guys qualify, so best of luck in the future.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, Hirix, that leaves us with one thing left on our docket. We've got another game coming up in just a bit. We've got a team we haven't gotten to see yet, 0-4 Dash, taking on the likes of Ataraxia. They are looking for their first win in the season, and this is going to be pretty much our last opportunity to see them go for it.
Yeah, I mean, 0-4 Dash, this is a rocky road for them to open up, and it reminds me a lot of 0-3 Splash, just because of obviously it's just, it's right there. It's on the nose. Come on now, guys. But yeah, a little bit of a different story, right? 0-4 Dash has not had the Cinderella story that 0-3 Splash had in the spring series. We'll see, though, if they could turn things back around. They're in the hunt for that first win, but against Ataraxia, it's going to be a tough one.
It'll be tough, but we'll see if they can step up to the plate and deliver on broadcast after this break.
You like solving problems. Problems like how to stop that Tracer from deleting your backline. I know just what you're thinking. You'll bring a turret. But y'all can't solve all your problems by simply bringing an extra friend to the battlefield. For that, you need the Contenders Torbjorn skin. Solve your problems by connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. After that, watching Overwatch Contenders Summer Series will contribute to your drops progress, letting you claim your Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin. Even your turret gets an upgrade. Warning, the Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin does not come with extra or upgraded turrets. Build instructions will not be provided. By picking Torbjorn, you waive a claim towards any destroyed turrets. No refunds, no exchanges, and no take-backsies.
the heart and soul of our sport, where these players strive to become who they're truly meant to be.
No more break, it's time for action. Welcome to Overwatch Contenders.
Welcome back, y'all. Our second match of the day is coming up after a strong 3-0 from Peps. We get to watch one of the last chances for 04 Dash to really pick up a win. They're down. They don't have one yet. They're not out yet, though. Ataraxia stands up against them. They may not be able to qualify, but they still have a chance at Pride, Yerks.
Yeah, that's, I think, the big thing on the table here for 04 Dash. The big thing on the table for them right now is to make sure that they don't go out without a loss. So we'll have to see if they can pull that off. 04 Dash, though, it's first and last time probably we're going to be able to see them on the stream. We'll have to see what happens, but of course, that's pretty much what it's looking like. Let's take a deeper dive into what this team looks like, who they are, and what they're capable of, which, interestingly, Dor, when you look at this roster, in my mind, this is a team far more capable than their record would imply. I mean, across the board, you're talking about top-level talent, you're talking about strategic masterminds as well. I mean, Zhao in particular has been behind a bunch of really high-performing EMEA teams, both as a player and as a coach as well. And of course, then you have really solid talent as a supporting cast. I mean, it's hard to believe that this team is without a win.
Yeah, they've got the team to get there. The question is, are they fading into the meta just right? Because Zhao can play across that tank line, but is solo tanking for this team. And looking at the strength of just teams in general in EU right now, it's just a dog-eat-dog world. It's a tough one to play, and 04 Dash has been unsuccessful, but like you said, not without a strong roster. Ataraxia, on the other hand, are offering up something just as interesting, and I think have been one of the more interesting teams compositionally, meta-wise, over the course of this entire thing. They're bringing Torb to the table. They're playing Orisa where they can, and they're backing it with incredible talent. I actually think in terms of being in form, I don't think there's a backline really that is putting on numbers outside of the normal, like Gala, not Lux. Yes, there are teams we expect to be higher. Yes, there are support lamps that I think are contending for that number 1, number 2 spot. But in terms of playing in form, playing above where we expect them to, Gala and Natlox have just been on a heater lately.
I think one of the biggest questions about this team for me here, Dor, is whether or not Pastor is going to be going back to the Torb. Because what we heard from him last week when we got to interview him after their series on Monday was that obviously he was coming back from a vacation to Italy. He was gone for 2 weeks and he came back and he's like, well, I can't aim, so I'm just gonna play Torb. Now that he's had time to get back into the swing of things, are we going to be seeing a little bit of a switch up? Are we going to seeing just some other picks coming out? Obviously, we know that Pastor can play a ton of different things, so I'm curious to see if a week is enough time for him to have built up that confidence again to be playing things outside of just the Torb. But the Torb is something I expect that they might still actually toy around with.
Yeah, it's also something that throws a wrench in the mix for a lot of teams that play into them, surprisingly. They can shift their playstyle either around it or just kind of leave it in as a sideboard kind of deal. And either way, the opposing team is forced to adapt. Something that I think on top of the entire task that 04 Dash already have ahead of them might just make things even more difficult in the grand scheme.
Yeah, and of course, Ataraxia on top of everything that we talked about. I mean, just how dynamic health can be, what this support line has been doing, the question about Pastor. Then on top of all of that, they also have the Swiss Army knife. Well, not necessarily Swiss, but you get the impression that we get that Ken has been a monster historically in EMEA, has really kind of defined, or rather helped to define, a ton of different rosters that he's been a part of, and has been a dynamic force that a lot of teams have struggled to contend with. And he's just another facet of what is a very, very dynamic roster, one that we would anticipate should be a really high performing team, but unfortunately for them, they've just had a couple of those kind of stumbles against again, the top 4, top 5, top 6, whatever you want to call it at this stage, the upper echelon of EMEA. This is one of the most insanely talented, I mean, completely insane regions out there right now, and it's just it's a testament to that a team like Ataraxia is as far down as they are.
Yeah, you say stumble, but they played Peps obscenely close last week. I mean, it was a back and forth match for the ages. It ended up 3-1, but that certainly didn't feel representative of how the game actually went. This one, though, we'll talk about scoreline in a sec. We're starting things off on Busan to open things up, something that I actually think 04 Dasher quite happy with in terms of map pick. Fairly neutral for them. Allows Chow to play a lot of his comfort picks. Let us know what you think you're comfortable with, though. Is today the day? Does 0-4 Dash get their win? How many of you are believers? And how many of you believe in the dominance that Ataraxia can offer up?
What I will say, Ataraxia probably has the most comfortable day of any team right now in terms of what kind of team they are and what kind of teams they're playing. I mean, you're talking about going from Pitbull, Storm, and to 0-4 Dash. That's team number 11 and team number 12 out of 12 in the standings back to back. Now, again, you still need to understand that the teams that are like 11th and 12th, honestly, in some other regions, might be top 8, like, without question. That's just kind of the situation that we're in with the EMEA right now. But Ataraxia, I think they had a great little first game that they had to deal with. 3-0, easy in and out. Now we transition into game number 2. Let's see what they can do here. 0-4 Dash, though, as we get started here. Going to be coming out Chow on the Ramatra. It's going to be Ataraxia, though, bringing out the dive. And guess what? The Torb's here.
Yeah, I don't think that's a particular surprise. It's been working for them. The onus is on 0-4 Dash to make the adaptations here. See if you could throw him for a loop with this Torb pick. Last week it played really well. Peps had a lot of trouble dealing with it, especially initially. And now the 0-4 Dash, no problems at all. Playing at distance, a boatload of poke here between the rockets and the arrows coming in. Each of those capable of dealing half a health bar of damage to those squishies. And with one of each of them combined, you put up picks like Natlock. You put up picks like Pastor.
That's just probably the best possible start that 0-4 Dash can get, because now they can go ahead and get forward, try to get some more, and that's exactly what they're going to do here, especially after stabilizing Loostar. This is just a fantastic opening for 0-4 Dash, and like I said, big question, is Pastor going to be sticking to the Torb, or are we going to see some, versatility come out? And that's exactly what we're going to get now. That's the Echo swap from Pastor. This is going to provide certainly a lot of help in dealing with multiple facets of 0-4 Dash's comp, but namely Goku as well.
Real help here. This is a nano boost that's just about available for Gala. Could be coming up any moment here, and that's the moment when Ataraxia want to strike, but what a shot! Goku hits them with the 1-2. Alley-oops with themselves in order to finish things off. Chow plays a little bit of hide and seek with Natlock, but that one's done as quickly as you can start it. 0-4 Dash is really making this one hurt.
This is not looking good at all for Ataraxia, because the thing is that they're not really getting very much value out of these full wipes as well. I mean, you're seeing them slowly get closer to some ultimates, but without the ability to overpower 0-4 Dash, who haven't had to use anything, this becomes so much more difficult.
Yeah, Hell dives in, but I mean, this is a dive with no teeth to it, right? The nano boost wears off as he approaches Sucrax, forced back to a mini pack. Now we're stranded, isolated away from our Ana. This is a nightmare. Hell barely gets the Primal Rage off, but getting it off might actually have been enough to save a lot of things here. Goku and Sucrax are gone, but Lukestar still hasn't been dealt with on the high ground. Helm is doing everything in his power to equalize this fight, but it is a one-man army against what is a solid front of 5 from 0-4 Dash.
Yeah, and at any point, Goku, Chow could come over and just go ahead and throw their ultimates into the mix as well. Just makes it that much more difficult. In fact, there it is. Man. Annihilation takes Gala out. Ataraxia, it just looks impossible at this stage.
Again, we are distinctly seeing far better coordination out of 0-4 Dash. Ataraxia have looked like 5 individual pieces. 0-4 Dash are putting up a strong, organized front. A lot of it's been pick-based, but I've got no problems with that. If the other team's got to walk through chokes, if we're playing a Busan, play to Busan's strengths. They're doing it well.
I mean, this past round, that composition was just so solid. I would say, in terms of compositional superiority, I would say 0-4 Dash oddly had a little bit under their belt for that first one. It's a solid composition. Obviously, you look to Goku to be able to pull things out on the Pharah. That's exactly what they got from him. Chow locked things down. Sucrax as well in the back line, just dishing out a ton of pressure himself. I mean, we're talking about 2.7k damage dealt. That is higher than almost everyone in the lobby. The only person higher than him, actually, is Chow. That's it. That's the only player that did more damage than the BAP on 0-4 Dash. So just speaks to what they've been able to accomplish with this composition, and I'm curious to see if they're going to get more of that here as they make a swap with the Widow, and no match at all from Ataraxia. In fact, they're going to have to try to get up to Lukestar and apply that pressure if he goes to high ground.
We'll see. The comp's a little bit more difficult to play with the open sightlines that this map offers up. You can't just rely on Hanzo doing half a health bar of damage, Pharah doing half a health bar of damage. It's going to be much more individual kills than the DPS line of 04 Dash. But Goku? Oh, Sweat's broken. Dive onto Sucrax even yet isn't particularly successful as Pastor's definitely going to die, right? There we go. Pastor does eventually die, and with the res from Haku, it's like they've never even lost anybody.
This is just so tough, rather. Actually, it feels like they can't find anything to
There's no targets, yeah.
Exactly. I think that's the biggest problem here is, I mean, when you look at 04 Dash, what do you go for? I mean, do you really go for the BAP? Do you go for Luke Star? Luke Star is just going to grapple right on out of there, and then 04 Dash can pivot and really punish you. If you overextend, Goku's taking your life. Chao is eating up your backline. Sucrex is dealing that damage consistently to be a threat as well. I mean, this is actually a good swap, I think, for Ataraxia to go over to the D.Va and maybe just play more preventative here.
That's the thing, is normally it would be Sucrax. It would be that Baptiste, but they're struggling to pull the Immortality Field away before the dive. So when they do dive in, they're diving in while he's got Immortality Field up, and often they're paying the price right about now. Fortunately, it does look like they got that one off clean. The focusing D.Va will take down both the Immortality Field and the BAP.
Much better here. Finally, Ataraxia find an opening. In fact, the funny thing here is that it was with a composition that doesn't force those openings. They wait for one to actually come through, and finally it does. 04 Dash gonna have to be a little bit more cognizant of what has been a pretty stark contrast, I think, strategically for Ataraxia now versus what they were trying to do earlier on. But we did see them get early credit, and now they're going to have some ultimates generated up. Haku going to fall, though, already.
An early pick, Ataraxia this time, not struggling to find targets at all. Catching 04 Dash in transition, which is exactly what they want to do.
Yeah, this is perfect from Ataraxia. They're just waiting for 04 Dash to come forward, and then as soon as they get into a position where they can kind of drop in on top of them, that's where 04 Dash are going to have their problems. That's where they're going to have their struggles. This time around, Haku going to be a little bit harder to find in the opener. The Valkyrie makes that a lot more difficult, and aside from that, Annihilation, Ant Matrix, all these things make it difficult for Ataraxia to punish them. See if they can pull it off, though.
Ant Matrix from high ground, Ken gaps Luke Star. 04 Dash want to approach this, because they're certainly not done with the fight yet. Resurrect after the space was made. They did have to pop Valkyrie in order to get that off. 04 Dasher spent a fair bit just on the approach here, but they make it worthwhile with a pick on Dagala. Dupe from Pastor, though, looks to equalize this Annihilation. Stay here for a while, but the Annihilation does not get charged up. They do get the pick on Chao, though. Now 04 Dash left without direction. Have got to find picks without a tank available to them. They will find a point, but the kills don't rain in until later. Goku offers one up.
Yeah, it seems like 04 Dash have made some sense out of what's been approaching them, and maybe not for too much longer, because Haku, speaking of, just immediately gets obliterated, and yeah, it's going back and forth now.
This is ridiculous. Goku tries to save a defense matrix, almost gets it. But as the dust settles, it looks like 04 Dash are the ones coming out ahead. Another pick on Nagala is going to be an even worse stagger here in the grand scheme of things. We're approaching final fight territory. Is the bomb gonna do anything? Oh my god, it does! We're not done yet.
I can't
what
believe
did I just
it.
witness?
Of all the people to find, too, it's the person that can bring back whoever gets picked. So Ataraxia just have that much longer to wait to get into this. I think the good news, I guess, is the fact that they will have Resurrect for the actual fight, because they didn't have to blow it to start one. But yeah, the timing does not bode well for Ataraxia coming back into this one, because remember, they're the ones that now need to extend forward to get some credit going.
Star dives into the back line. Ataraxia all peel back to try and prevent what was a Phenom pulse bomb. There was nothing there. But Ataraxia all go back into that small building, and they paid the price. They had a lot of health bar damage. They're able to trade it all back eventually with a couple pings and a Hail Mary pulse bomb. I think it's 2v2 on point now. Pastor and Helm versus Luke Star and Sucrax. Ataraxia getting the better of that trade initially, but with the implication matrix, 04 Dash should be able to flip this one back over. It's just Gala on the high ground here, getting pincered. Oh my god, it's desperate. A hold from Ataraxia. It's not to be as well. 04 Dash with a map 1 win. I mean, what can you say? What a ridiculous route it took to get there. Picks aplenty, scrappy fights, absurd dives, Sucrax living forever, the 2v2 finale on point. You're really getting it all with this one.
And the funny thing is that now 04 Dash have 5 map wins. 3 of those 5 maps have come in control, but none of them really have looked the way that we saw that one. And what I mean by that is that they looked good.
Yeah.
I mean, they looked like a team that could win the series.
I don't know. I know what they were eating for the past week, but it must have been something good. That was really promising. And I hate doing this at the start of series because you never know how it's going to go. Like you said, most of their map wins have come in control. We have to put the asterisk on it. But if that's where their control's looking, I'm feeling pretty optimistic about the way this series is going. At the very least, you expect more out of the series as we're guaranteed at least 4 should 04 Dash take it.
Yeah, I think at this stage, I think we would do well to mention where else 04 have had some successes, and the only other maps that they've been able to take outside of the controls that we've already talked about were 2 maps against Sheer Cold, and that was on Midtown and on Circuit. So we'll have to see if maybe either of those 2 maps come up. Maybe that could be something that they go for. Obviously, 04 Dash, they chose Midtown after losing Antarctic Peninsula in that series, but then they were taken to Circuit. So we'll have to see. I think as well, if we do manage to get, I mean, obviously we will get to a map number 3, Circuit could be an interesting approach here, because with Health, I mean, there's a lot of different takes that we can see Ataraxia have, but I actually don't mind 04 Dash's chances on that map.
Oh, not one bit. Health has offered up a lot in the past, though. We expect this series to go, I think, pretty wide in terms of hero depth, in terms of hero pool, especially when you're talking about somebody who can play virtually everything, like Health can, brings a very dangerous Orisa to the table. But as we talk about that, the map pick's actually Numbani.
Yeah, going into a map number 2 now, Ataraxia, they're at the helm. They get the decision here. So yeah, going over to Numbani, I think does make a decent bit of sense if you're going to go ahead and try to probably pull Helve out, I would imagine, just actually go in for Shira instead. I think they might actually have a different approach for this one as we move, obviously, like you mentioned, into Numbani. We'll have to wait and see. Actually, I can just cheat right now. Yeah, Shira's right there. We can go ahead and cheat. We can see it right away. So yeah, that's going to be what Ataraxia is looking to do, it seems like. So this does make some sense here to be able to go into this, and we'll see which version of this map, or I guess which composition they want to go for, because if we do see them go into the D.Va, that can certainly be matched by 04 Dash. I mean, Chao is definitely solid on the D.Va. That's one of the things that he's most known for, I would say, actually. But of course, there's also, you know, everything in between that's on the table as well. You could go for Ramatra certain sections of the map. You could go for Winston, obviously, certain sections of the map. So we'll have to see what Ataraxia have in store for us.
Yeah, I mean, to see Shira at all, I think it's a little interesting. We've been spotting Health 90% of the time for this team. Shira's coming in, has a lot of things up their sleeve. They just usually decide to flex onto Helve's more off-meta picks like the Orisa in situations like this. But with the pick to Numbani, Shira, like you said, is the obvious choice for them. The question now is, can they match DPS wise? Because for 04 Dash, one of the big things was just their ability to poke out from long range, right? Whether it's an Ashe, a Hanzo, a Widowmaker being paired alongside that Pharah or the Echo, that's going to be a really powerful tool on the first point of this map. And I think, yes, obviously Ataraxia has some pretty strong poke tools. 04 Dash has been winning that battle outright so far.
Yeah, interestingly enough, too, because, I mean, we're talking about a DPS lineup that features Ken, who I think in this matchup has actually been pretty solid. I don't want to say that Ken has been falling short in any capacity. I mean, you could even look at the statistics. Even when they're dropping that first map, Ken still is a statistical solid performer. Even on things like the Tracer, which typically doesn't really have a whole host of solid, you know, stats in terms of the lobby. You don't typically have like crazy high damage. But that has been what Ken has been able to pull out regardless. So in spite of that, Luke-Star, Goku still able to contend pretty well, I would say, as they're up now against Ataraxia. We're going into Numbani map number 2 here. Shira going to be pulling that D.Va out. But this is, like, again, this is what we were talking about, I think, with this approach. We expect the D.Va. We know that Shira is going to be the better D.Va, as, you know, between the two of Shira and Helve, obviously, so it makes sense. But you are still, like I said, kind of playing into Chao a little bit there, right? I mean, D.Va is something that Chao is very much known for.
I think the the question for Ataraxia is, I don't think they're at a stage yet where they're trying to map counterpick 04-, because at this point, there's probably not a map that 04- haven't lost on. I mean, that's
Right.
just the nature of having
Play to your
a
strength.
map record of
Yeah.
-23. Yeah, you play to your strengths. If this is what they think is going to get them win, if this is what they think they're comfortable on, if they need to shift things up in the tank line, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But like you said, on paper, in theory, it shouldn't be too bad for 04- either. Let's see how Chow steps up here. Shira.
The other thing, too, to look out for is going to be Goku versus Pastor as well. Pastor a little bit quieter in that last map, in map number 1. Goku certainly anything but. We'll have to see what they can do head-to-head this time around.
Already, it's Ataraxia on the back foot. Pastor. We're real low, but we're okay. We got away.
Tucker
They give
moment.
up a lot of space for that, though. Even if you don't get the pick, the point control's gone starkly the way of 04-, who now have high ground control on top of that. Ataraxia, I don't think they're ready for the flank that's coming as well. The Tracer's going to be coming in from behind with all this. Yeah, you can see the Ana getting pressured out in the corner of your screen there. Gala under pressure. Shira can't get picked up because the Ana's turned the other way. This is a nightmare. Ataraxia didn't lose a single player, and 04- capped the point. What a positional masterclass.
I mean, nobody died. Not a soul died. That is insane. But nonetheless, now finally the first kill comes out, and it's 04- that actually lose their Tracer player. But yeah, I mean, high ground control, corner control. Shira couldn't press forward, and now you have to wonder if 04- are going to play this well, this smart. I mean, is this going to be something that winds up continuing consistently?
See, an aggressive step forward from Ataraxia. Nanoing the Echo. I'm not sure how much I love this. Yeah, the second strike of the Nano Boost feels a lot stronger, but fortunately at the tail end of that Nano Boost, Ken got a pick. So now things get real messy as the duplicate comes out for 04-, trying to pressure forward with the second Diva, maybe chucking a bomb to force that backline away even further than they were already being pushed back. It's just Pastor and Shira on the point right now, to be completely honest, and with the support line so far back, they're bound to go down eventually here.
Interesting approach here. Luke Star does actually find Gala. Bob definitely shutting down this approach, and man, that just got even harder. Ataraxia just off the back of Shira, finding some insane amount of value, diving in almost solo. But I mean, I think the biggest crux now for 04- going forward is going to be, how do we deal with Ken? I mean, there's no pressure really onto this Ashe at all. Really not much damage taken at all. I mean, you look at that backline, 500 damage taken in totality for Ken, 798 for Gala, and 500 for Natlux. There is no pressure onto this backline at all.
We talk about Shira getting beat on pretty hard here, but there we start to see the focus shift for 04- as they dive towards that back line and get Ken. I think they're listening to us or something. Like, this is, yes, a couple misfires there for them firing away at the Diva, but their ability to recognize it and change the game plan pretty quickly is impressive. It hasn't won them the fight in entirety quite yet, as that high ground still under contention, but with Shira at a mech, this should certainly mean some cart pressure and a fight win with that pulse bomb coming through.
That's the second, I think, onto Gala that they got in a row, and now with Passer falling, yeah, this is a lot better here for 04-. They immediately recognized what the issue was. Hey, look, there's some players out there in the back that are a little bit more susceptible to some of our pressure and some of our damage. Why are we not going for them? They flipped that switch, and things look way better because of it, and now you see this time bank, things are still looking great. You still see self-destruct ults coming up as well for 04-.
It's the dupe and the Ant Matrix that do it for me here, though. Such incredible space-taking ultimates. See a dive into the backline from the Tracer, from the Echo. Shira eats all the damage from that Ant Matrix. This will be an easily dealt with Bob as well. Ataraxia throwing an ultimate into the Abyss here as they try to scramble to contest the end of a B point. That was inevitable for 04-. I mean, a small speed bump is the only way I can describe that one fight win that Ataraxia got.
Yeah, and even then, I mean, it just kind of felt like they won it, but 04- was back in the mix quickly, and then it seemed like Ataraxia could have won another, but 04- was right back in the mix so quick as, again, I mean, it was back-to-back efforts there, and now 04-, they're not really spending anything to be able to continue winning these fights, continue pushing this momentum forward, and yet another pick, nothing spent.
Was that just Chow? I think that was just Chow diving in on Ken. Managed to find a pick there on the backline. Maybe a stray shot from Luxar. I don't know, you shouldn't be giving kills away, especially at that range though against the D.Va. Chow, no punish for going in that deep. Now you're approaching the end of a point. 0-4 dash, double D.Va'd up, are diving your Ana. Oh god, poor Gala. Notlox has said, you know what, you have fun back there. I'll see if I can pocket Shira to a victory. That doesn't seem very likely either though, as 0-4 dash still have gas in the tank, and Amp Matrix on top of all of that. A self-destruct could zone off the final moments of this point as well, making things even rougher for Ataraxia, who are finally starting to stabilize with the help from a couple picks from Ken and Gala.
Yeah, and on top of that, they still have that respawn advantage. So if they can get some of these trades inside of the fights before things go terribly sideways, well, then they'll be in a much better position. And I think now with them backed all the way up here, this is definitely a much better position for them to at least get a hold. But you have to continue this, and now we're seeing the swap from Zhao. They're going over to Zarya, and this is, I think, just full committed to dealing with Shire. You're seeing the beam all the way.
I mean, it's a strong pick for Chow in particular, has played it for some time. Plays into the D.Va particularly well. Shira, not particularly well known for chucking in a Winston, something that would play pretty decently into this. The answer is really looking at the DPS line and hoping for picks, but right now it's all 0-4 dash. This Zarya has been an incredible tech-in from 0-4 dash, in one that they had no reservations in making. They swap instantly. Their willingness to change the game plan, their fluidity is incredible within this match. Shira still feeling the hurt of that beam from the Zarya, gets away with the health bar, but is lucky to do so. A dupe now is the real last-ditch effort from Ataraxia, as 0-4 dash still don't have any ultimates to really fire away and topple this point over with. And an amplification matrix to hold them off. It's looking better and better for Ataraxia by the second, but with Ken down, maybe it's not.
Oh, this is not good news for Ataraxia. That is a big grab that certainly sets back a ton of the resources for Ataraxia. Now it's just 0-4 dash looking to see if they can actually close this out.
They should be able to dupe and grab. If that's not enough, I don't know what is. Green overwhelms the kill feed as 0-4 dash careen across the finish line here on Numbani. This was Ataraxia's map pick, but it is 0-4 dash's map to take.
50 seconds, the timer there, round one complete for 0-4 dash, and what a finish it was as well. You saw that shift, you saw Zarya actually taken, but it wasn't fully completed just yet. We were still kind of in that mindset of playing for the D.Va, and then there was another change that got made. Nice play there as well, but another change that got made where we saw a recommitment of the resources back over to Chow. They saw that Chow was dominant in that tank matchup, even more so than they would have intended, because obviously Ataraxia was focusing a lot of their pressure onto the Zarya, especially with bubbles down, but Chow was still very dominant in that matchup. They were able to hold Shira to the cart, and as soon as we saw 0-4 dash realize that, they committed everything to Chow. Chow was able to get out the Graviton Surge, and it pulled everything else that was left. If there was anything left from Ataraxia, it got pulled then, and that was when the door shut in front of their face.
What's crazy for me is the pace of their decision making too. Like, these are not decisions that other teams would take lightly. Other teams would force a comp through the map, try and make minor adjustments. 0-4 dash is making entire game plan changes, shifting from frontline dive to backline dive, frontline focus, backline focus, tossing in a Zarya, teching it in at the final moments of a point, and again, shifting that game plan back to what they were doing earlier that wasn't working earlier, recognizing that it would work then. And I think a lot of that comes down to Chow. You talk about it. Somebody who's not just played as a player, but has played as coaching staff for many a successful team. You need somebody like that in the wings if you want to make significant compositional maneuvers like they have.
And not only that, but it makes you wonder, where has this team been? Love to see if they can close this out, but it is a good start for them on map number 2 in a series that they're up in. Now they have to deal with Ken. They have to deal with this approach from Ataraxia, and they're going for the high ground early.
Ataraxia's dive easily absorbed by the likes of 0-4 dash. Chow calmly. Defense matrix is away most of the pressure. Gala makes the sprint across the point. 0-4 dash don't try to dive the Ana though until maybe a little bit later. Gala's taking a lot of damage, but hasn't gone down quite yet. Chow makes a decisive move onto Ken though, and they both topple at the same time. Push from Ataraxia easily deflected away from a well-timed push by 0-4 dash.
A bit of worry here for Ataraxia as well. They have to be careful. They know that there is some danger very close to them. Lugstar has that pulse bomb at the ready. There's a couple of targets that could be found here, but I will say there are some good options for Ataraxia to deny that pulse bomb that comes out. I think that's the biggest worry for Ataraxia in their approach. That might slow them a little bit because they know that that could come in and completely shut the door on this attack.
I mean, it's a lot harder of a pulse bomb to land now that Gala is swapped over to the Kiriko, right? Lugstar dives in, it's onto the Kiriko. There's no response! No TP! No Suzu! They used them all earlier in the fight to play that aggressive position that Gala had gotten into to set things up, not preparing themselves for that pulse bomb. They weren't ready, Hurix! They had all the time in the world to prep. Just a slight miscalculation. And they pay the ultimate price, 0-4 dash. I mean, this is as comfortable as it gets for Nubanier.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel much better for 0-4 dash than it does so far in this series. There, finally, Pastor gets the better end of the deal, but Goku has been dominant throughout this one. And you can see now with less than half of their time bank, Ataraxia have finally built up to a stage where they might be able to overpower 0-4 dash. If not for the macro, it should at least be with these ultimates.
We'll see. 0-4 dash have put up a hell of a performance in this game thus far. Overcoming this fight would be one of many miracles they've already performed. See if they can just get one more. Goku killing a Natlox, a res onto Goku. Numbers not great for 0-4 dash. They do have a duplicate though if they want to send this one long. I think they'll hold it though for the sake of Macro on that second point. Lugstar though picks up one more to go.
Yeah, good effort from 0-4 dash. I think the big thing here is the fact that they were able to get their DPS ults online, so at least going into this next fight, they may not relinquish all the momentum, and that's certainly something that they have to be aware of for this section of the map, because you can easily take minutes off of the clock here in this section. It's so long. There is certainly a lot of different opportunities to take really solid fights, defensive positioning, being mindful of that. But that definitely isn't a good start.
Yeah, no, 0-4 dash want to finish this thing on this point. And you know what? With Pastor down, that's all of a sudden looking a bit more possible. A res takes time, but not enough for 0-4 dash to really kick their foot in the door. Ataraxia keep going through B.
We'll have to see how long it takes Chao to go down. Interesting that they actually took him as early as they did. There might have been a possibility to make that last maybe like 5,
I think
6.
it's just adrenaline for Ataraxia. I think they're not trying to play around here, you know?
Yeah, but this does give the opportunity for 0-4 dash to get a decent fight opportunity here right at the end of point B, as Chao is back and very close to self-destruct. So if Chao takes a ton of pressure, they have that reset potential, and there it is.
It's Ken focused again solely by Chao. Not enough damage there to finish off that health bar. A high ground bomb, though, looks to make some space as Shira falls. Now it's just 0-4 dash with a tank, which should be more than enough to win this point, as there's no real pressure on the point, no presence from Ataraxia left to really get it through.
Yeah, they had 2 self-destructs going off at the same time. 0-4 dash had both levels covered. Top and second story. Or sorry, first and second story completely covered. So it completely pushed Ataraxia off of the entire point, and they also got separated and then isolated. So yeah, that was a little bit unfortunate for Ataraxia. They weren't obviously prepared for that to happen, especially in the timing that it did. We'll see what they can do here, because that did pull... Or sorry, it was actually only the one self-destruct. It was Shira's self-destruct that was on the first story. But either way, it did pull Ataraxia off into the building. They couldn't contest the point because of the positioning that we saw Goku having. But either way, 0-4 dash holding on to this high ground here. It's going to be Pastor with the duplicate, but that's really all that Ataraxia have. But they got the pick.
Oh, it's huge. Shukrak's down. No sustain for this team. Ataraxia crumble 0-4 dash's defense here at the end of B. Question now is, what's the time bank looking like going into C? Chao can trade one back. You need 1 or 2 more to convince me here, 0-4 dash, but you know what? 1 or 2 more might get delivered. No, Pastor cleans things up. Nicely done.
And then nice amount of healing as well, just to make sure that Pastor doesn't go down late there. But a finished point B for Ataraxia. They had to pretty much throw everything out to get it done, but that's all that's important right now. And here's where you see that swap happening yet again. 0-4 dash committing to the Zarya. Chao pulling that one out again. But Pastor has been, I mean, he's actually kind of been lights out, finding a ton of opening picks. Both him and Ken have been finding a ton of opening picks. It's been Suckrax actually going down more often than not in a lot of these, but either way.
Finally, Pastor gets their comeuppance, but it's just not worth it. Ataraxia throw an amplification matrix and give 04 Dash the beans. Ataraxia did not have the advantage coming into this fight. It should have been 04 Dash in a lot of circumstances, but just not right now. Ken and Pastor are too much to match. Goku's trying desperately to put up some sort of equalization on this Echo. Flies into an immortality field. That's a Hail Mary from Spawn to stop this cart from pushing. And you know what? I think at the end of the day, when the dust settles, 04 Dash did get enough of a win out of that.
Yeah, I mean, respawn advantage is just enough to get the job done, and also it resets position too, so Suckrax is in a decent spot to just kind of throw down an amp matrix for himself,
Oh
but
my
unfortunately,
God!
that ain't happening.
It can't keep happening, man. This backline's getting picked left, right, and center. Ataraxia, yeah, this is going to be an easy walking the cart to the end here. The tank being the last of diamonds as well. Any sort of stagger is going to be cut short by the fact that they just don't have enough health to actually hide behind. Ataraxia just about matched the time bank here of 04 Dash, and what very well could have been enough of a hold to pull that time bank away. And I think that's the unfortunate part there. I think that's the disappointment for 04 Dash, was that it was so doable to clean that up to 0 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it already, just the importance of momentum on a map like Nimbani. You saw things start off really, really hot for 04 Dash. We saw Ataraxia drained of most of their time bank initially. I mean, 04 Dash was smothering Ataraxia. Their backline was covered constantly in a barrage of damage from every angle. And then as soon as any foothold was found by Ataraxia, they never let go of that at all. They just put that foot on the gas and did not relent. That is a stellar finish from Ataraxia. I mean, as well as 04 Dash have been performing, we do have to give some credit to Ataraxia for finding their way back into this one. It's tough when you're down like they were, or at least I imagine that they felt like they were.
I mean, you talk about the picks that came through, how Ataraxia are doing a great job converting. For me, the issue is just the rate of the picks coming through. When picks are happening that often, it is both that you need to give incredible hats off to Ken and Pastor, because they're hitting the shots, they're doing exactly what their job needs to be, and they're taking advantage of things from 04 Dash. But if players are getting picked that often, somebody's out of position, you know? And it's happening time and time again. They've got to keep that backline up, because Chow is playing far more for the dive than for the peel on this Steven. If they want to get away with that, they've got to play a little bit safer.
And I think one of the interesting things here is the major difference in the compositions. I mean, it's a small thing, but it's a big thing that you see Ken on this pick here of the Ashe and Lukestar on the Tracer, and just like that, Pastor's going to fall. We're probably going to have to talk about that comp difference later on, though.
We saw the difficulty that Ataraxia had in contesting A early on in the last time, both on defense and attack. That may bite them in the rear here in OT.
Ataraxia, 20 seconds left here. They went the distance. They got to this position by virtue of their aggression, by virtue of their picks that they were able to find, and they need one now if they're able to get anything going. And Ken almost died there to just Chow, I think.
I mean, that just would have been it. Altogether, 04 Dash, though, the first one's up with ultimates. Ataraxia need to strike before those come to fruition. That's what they were looking for! Focusing Beam takes down Sucrax, but the trade's so good from 04 Dash. The res ready and waiting as well. Ataraxia was not meant to be on this A point. Now they stare down the barrel of an 04 Dash who took this A point without even killing anybody in their attacking round.
Silver lining, you know I gotta throw it out, man.
Okay,
you know I have
okay.
to. There was a tick stolen there in the midst of a losing battle. 33 points. It was like, it says 33.8 there, but it was like 33.76.
It says 33.7. Why does it round in a different direction?
Yeah, so we've got truncation here in this UI, and we've got rounding in the other one. So we've got like a 33.76 situation on our hands potentially. But either way, Ataraxia did at least find something. So this is, at this stage, not going to be a situation where we have, you know, any kind of draw that you can put the telescopes away. That is not in our sights at all. One team is coming away with a map win here, 04 Dash. I have to imagine are going to need to take some kills to take it this time. Ataraxia not going to be bodied off of that position this time around. They certainly have some stuff at the ready.
Astor coming in on the Torbjorn. It is a fully defensive composition. I'm actually quite a big fan of Ash Torb as a DPS line in general. I think it's super slept on the right maps. It can do a lot.
The old
On this
Horizon
map,
comp,
it
right?
can be
It's
pretty
the old
strong.
Horizon comp.
Exactly. And I think it's plenty viable in this situation. 04 Dash have to attack into it. They have, I think, a lot less liberty to try and disengage Ataraxia than they did before, but we saw how disengaging went for them last time, so maybe they're just not trying to do that at all.
One of the things here, too, is that Goku likely going to have to play a little bit more aggressively if 04 Dash wants to find their way into the objective, or at least pulling things forward from Ataraxia, and in so doing, might place himself and also Haku into a position where they can get picked off. You're already seeing that pressure being exerted onto Haku there. That health bar gets lower, so certainly watch for where Goku is taking that duo. That could definitely spell good things or desperately bad things.
Oh, this is a big focusing beam. It's got Gala! Everything they were looking for, Nalog's down, the back line's gone. Ataraxia, say goodbye to your second map. 04 Dash. Yurik's there one away. Yurik's there one away.
I can't believe it. 04 Dash have done it again. They have found a way to execute here on point A. They take a second map. What an unbelievable situation here. I mean, we were coming into this and we were saying, look, this is all coming down to they just want to be able to get a win. We've seen them take some maps. We've seen them, get pretty close against Sheer Cold. They were able to take a few off of some other teams, but it really hasn't been as close as it is right now. They are leading the series, and this has not been something that happens often for this team.
No, I mean, look, this is the first time, the only time we're seeing 04 Dash. We've watched them slowly crumble in the background, going 0-9 up until now. It was desperate. This was the one match on the schedule that we said, okay, we'll toss them up on stream. Maybe this is the chance they need. And then we saw how Ataraxia was playing last week, and we said, oh no. And Ataraxia is looking in form. They're looking incredible. The backline was playing great. Everything was like a well-oiled machine. Everything said that 04 Dash should not be in this position. Alas, we're here 2-0. Can they finish things off? Put their first, maybe only win on the board after this break.
You like solving problems. Problems like how to stop that tracer from deleting your backline. I know just what you're thinking. You'll bring a turret. But y'all can't solve all your problems by simply bringing an extra friend to the battlefield. For that, you need the Contenders Torbjorn skin. Solve your problems by connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. After that, watching Overwatch Contenders Summer Series will contribute to your drops progress, letting you claim your Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin. Even your turret gets an upgrade. Warning, the Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin does not come with extra or upgraded turrets. Build instructions will not be provided. By picking Torbjorn, you waive a claim towards any destroyed turrets. No refunds, no exchanges, and no take-backsies.
Welcome back, everybody. We're recovering ourselves. We're trying not to set expectations too high, but the alarm bell is like slowly ringing in the distance. 04 Dash are up 2-0. There's no other way to put it. Route 66 is the destination that we'll head to see if they can close things out in one go, or if things get a lot more stressful for both these teams and our blood pressure gets even higher.
I'm experiencing some crazy emotions right now. I mean, part of it is elation. I feel good for 04 Dash, a team that, like, you look at it, face value, this should be an incredible team. At least being able to vie for some wins here and there at the bare minimum, but, you know, obviously have been suffering so far in the round robin stage, but might have a shot here to get their first. Route 66 going to be map number 3 here. Yet another map chosen by Ataraxia, and yet another compositional swap, roster swap, which will lead probably to a compositional swap for Ataraxia. They're bringing Helve back in. Otherwise, everything else is the same here. But really, I mean, when you talk about composition, I think that is one thing that does kind of set Ataraxia and 04 Dash apart, interestingly, that we have seen some changes for 04 Dash, and obviously a lot of that comes down to investment into Goku, and Goku doing a lot with that investment. But otherwise, Suckrex has been doing a phenomenal job when not getting first picked, I guess, as well.
Yeah, I think in large part, as much as there are individual performances here, like you said, they're putting the resources into Goku, Suckrex is doing well. It's largely been both macro and team play.
Oh, yeah.
Their fight planning has been dead on. Their decision-making mid-match, I mean, the 2 swaps on their attacking side of Numbani were picture perfect. I'm assuming calls from Chow, you have to think that's where it's coming from. But from the entire team, it has been top-down a really impressive match.
Yeah, I mean, based off of what I know from these players, it's going to come down to, obviously, the team environment. They're going to be calling to each other, giving each other information, but a lot of that is going to fall on Chow, more than likely. I'd be interested in talking to them and getting a little bit more of a deeper dive into that. But yeah, based off of what I know about these players that I've been seeing for years now, I think Chow probably is a dominant person in the comms in terms of structuring some of these timings, some of these plays that we've been seeing them make. And then, obviously, a lot of those swaps that do rely on Chow, those are coming from him as well. So when you see him swapping over to the Zarya, that's very likely coming from him as well. But as we now transition over into a map number 3, one of the things that we talked about earlier was that 04 Dash really hasn't had too much success in map 3s. They've only won one single escort map, and it wasn't Route 66, so we'll have to see what they can do. If they pull this one off, this would be insane. I mean, what a conclusion to the day if 04 Dash gets their first win of the round robin.
I think we can all go out and celebrate after that one, but up against them on Route 66, I think we've glanced over Helve coming back in a little bit, because we saw a ton of the Orisa last week. Helve was on fire, making difference after difference, pulling back lost fights time and time again that they should have had absolutely no right doing, with critical spears on backline members, setting them up for tracer dives at the same time. Some really nice coordination. Not 100% sure it's going to come out here, but I'm starting to think that it's been one of the more consistent map winners for them in the past week or two. And it can be brought out here. We'll see in a couple seconds. The world's really their oyster. The Winston, of course, is kind of the default go-to in situations like this. The question arises again for Chow as well. Do we want to go with the D.Va? Do we want to go with the Winston? Plenty of choice to be had there.
I think the funny thing here, too, is the fact that, you know, if I'm Ataraxia, I'm thinking to myself, man, I wish I could play Ryan. I mean, this is a team, rather, that would do well playing a Ryan-based composition. Helve is a phenomenal Ryan player, but really this map pool, despite all of the success that we're seeing from SR Peak Check, not really the best outright map pool for playing and forcing Ryan compositions. Really, I mean, your best bet on this map, as we've actually seen and heard from SR Peak Check, would be something like Circuit, which obviously neither of these teams is actually going to play Reinhardt on Circuit. They would definitely both go for Sigma. So that's just not happening. It's not in the cards for Ataraxia, as much as I think Helve would love it. But Winston is definitely something that Ataraxia can pull out here and have some success with, but whether or not they will, still yet to be determined. We do see Gala letting that early, just getting some ult credit. But overall, 04 Dash, this is potentially going to end the way it started. I mean, this is a very similar composition to what we saw from them back on Busan.
Yeah, it's all about those picks. Luckstar and Goku pairing together. One rocket, one arrow. 2 rockets, 2 arrows, either of them will do it. A 1 to the dome is enough to put a pin in the hopes of Ataraxia keeping this series longer. Initially, though, it's a pick on Stuckrex from Ken. Open things up. First corner has been garnered, though, and with the Pharah above, Gala still has to deal with this. A pick onto the Ana is so worthwhile for this team to get. They try to invest big on it. Barely scrape by with Goku's life. Unfortunately, it's at the cost of Haku's.
Yeah, Haku's going down here. This is exactly what we were talking about in the last map as well. Remember, Goku has to play aggressively here if 04 Dash are going to have success, and that's going to pull him forward and Haku forward. So if Ataraxia turn and are able to get value out of that turn onto either of them, that might just be a lost fight then and there for 04 Dash. And on top of that, you also have Luke Star onto the Hanzo. There's a sleep onto Goku as well. That might be his death.
Almost certainly is. They trade out for Ken, though. And the Resurrect is a very real thing here for 04 Dash. They actually look to collapse on that body and cover it for a res. Ataraxia recognized that, nano boost the Winston to make sure that doesn't go through, but in doing so, invested a lot of their resources not towards the top of Big Earls, which is now in control of 04 Dash.
Oh, tries to be so careful, though. Goes down so dangerously low. Luckily for 04 Dash, they stabilized their tank. That's the person that they need in this fight, holding up that high ground, as well as being able to get that annihilation ready to go for this one as they get closer to capping out point A.
Right coming through, Sucrax. The high ground relatively uncontested. Ken needs to throw something at this Baptiste, or else that high ground pressure is just going to be too much. Annihilation into the backline buys all the space that they were looking for. Pastor's trying to make this EMP work. It might be a swap here for Ataraxia, though, as 04 Dash pressed over A.
Yeah, it might honestly need to be at this stage. I mean, Pastor did manage to generate that EMP pretty quickly, so they are getting value out of the Sombra in terms of generating those ultimates, but it's about getting value when you get them. 04 Dash, unfortunately for Ataraxia, just absolutely suffocated them in a choke point, so it's very difficult to execute off of that. So if they want to hold on to the EMP bot, you can definitely do that. Generate some more EMPs, go ahead. It's still a viable option for Ataraxia, especially, again, given the fact that Pastor can generate those rather quickly. But dealing with Goku, dealing with Haku like we saw before, that's still what's on the menu for Ataraxia.
See, that's where I disagree. I don't think EMP bot is like the way through this. Ken's been getting you picks like off random just because Ken is Ken, right? And that's been really good for you, but sitting here waiting for an EMP is also sitting here waiting for an arrow to connect through your head, waiting for a rocket. The longer the pick composition has to find the picks, they're happy with that, right? They're chill just playing at distance and letting you get some EMP charge, because if they get one pick in the time that it takes you to build up that much, they're gonna get a fight win on you. And that looked nearly enough to do so despite Ken's heroic efforts.
This stage, proof is in the pudding, it feels like, right? I mean, it could go either way. Ataraxia just waiting for that EMP like we talked about, but in the meantime, they just have so much space to help them out with, right? Gala going to be able to pull out the ult. Okay, definitely not doing that
Great
anymore.
dive. That's good for both sides, though. Pastor and Gala are down. The help of a barrage as well. This fight will be quickly stabilized by 04 Dash. It's a cheap one. Just the barrage having been committed in there to get a fight win and a strong position. This is so worthwhile.
230, 04 Dash. I mean, they're just one step closer. Every single fight won here is just one step closer to maybe their first win in the round robin stage. They can't make playoffs at this stage, but now it's about their name. It's about their legacy. Can they get the win?
Pick. They got Pastor, and before the EMP came online, it's lights out for this B point. There's no way for Ataraxia to really get in. Like I said, Ken has been the linchpin of this defense for Ataraxia. Every fight they've won has started off with a Ken pick. And I feel like that's just not something you consistently rely on for your Tracer to just solo the backline. But if there's anybody, maybe it's Ken.
I'll tell you the thing that isn't working here is this Sombra. It's just simply not at this stage. The EMP is ready finally, but it took all of point B. What was a really fast generation on point A, it took about 3 times as long for them to get it this time around. Now they need value out of this.
Ken's done it again. Just solo onto Goku allows them to save the EMP. Ken has been muscling through. If anybody prevents 04 Dash from getting their first win, it will have been Ken the Gatekeeper.
Okay, so focus still on Ken, but certainly also on Pastor. It took so long to get here, man. You really got to get something out of this time around. 0-4 Dash, though, going to be pushed again. We see Luxstar on this Torb. This should help them to a degree with this dive. If Ataraxia go forward aggressively, they are going to be met with some really solid pressure, but it's going the other way.
Star down and Matrix out. Pastor still holding on to the EMP. Ataraxia's early picks have allowed them to leverage that so beautifully. And now every fight that 0-4 Dash walk into, they have to be wary of that EMP. It is a threat. It's quite a tool, even when it's not being used.
I love the patience from Pastor, though. I mean, I think this makes just so much sense, and it's hard to do that as well. When you've only used one single ultimate and what is effectively almost an entire map. There's only 2 minutes left here, Door, and Pastor's only ulted once as a Sombra, but to hold on to this when you don't need it, that is so smart because it might make all the difference in the fight to come.
0-4 Dash want nothing more than the insurance that reaching the end of Route 66 would provide them. Ataraxia unwilling to give them that policy, though. Helv takes out the opening pick. Suckrax down. Chow trying desperately to get in here. Knows he has the Annihilation to extend this fight, so doesn't need that support necessarily. But with multiple players falling behind him, it becomes a lot harder to push. They group up with that pressure. Annihilation popped. Zones people away from the cart, but Ataraxia already got what they wanted. If they can just get out scot-free, if they could have just gotten out with Helv, they would have been happy. But as the tank falls, more cart progress goes the way of 0-4 Dash, bolstering that attack, yet is an immortality field allowing Chow to stay alive. There's a Hail Mary from Suckrax, one that he was only able to get off just before dying for like the third time in 2 minutes. Chow falls back now onto a team with only 4 members. Suckrax was picked up though, and they're back up to 5. All the members rally together to try and reach the end of a Route 66 that could very well spell the end of a losing streak here for 0-4 Dash. Ataraxia on the back foot. They have nothing to contest here. The cart continues storming forward. A molten core, a last hurrah, a final shout towards the end of this map. Only Pastor's left here. It'll be but a whisper though in the grand scheme of things. The line in the sand has been drawn. 0-4 Dash just have to stop the end of the map from being reached, and most of their troubles will have been over.
20 seconds as well. So if things go a little bit further, guess what? That might help out. 20 seconds is enough sometimes, depending on where we're at, to get another fight. So this is a good position for 0-4 Dash to be in. They should feel confident as they start their defense here. I mean, Ataraxia definitely made him work for it at the end, but really, 0-4 Dash was dominant throughout.
I mean, the difference in tone that we talk about this map with between beginning of C and end of C push is massive. It was very reachable, very attainable for a while for Ataraxia, but the end of the map is far more difficult because Time Bank just fell by the wayside. Again, you have to give so much credit though. Like you said, 0-4 Dash was in charge of pretty much that entire map. The only thing that continued to offer up issues for them was Ken. And then again, I think some strong credit to Gala, who put up a good performance there on C to make that hold as long as it was.
What can they do on their defense now? Like you said, the only thing they have to do is just stop Ataraxia from finishing the map. And guess what? That's a very achievable feat. It genuinely is. This is a map that can be very difficult to traverse through. I mean, especially even for dive-based compositions like we're expecting to get out of Ataraxia. It's what they're hovering right now as well. This is pretty difficult because if you don't have momentum, setting up for these dives takes time. And if you lose the fight after that to any of these picks that could come out from 0-4 Dash, then guess what? That is all that time wasted.
Astro's got to be quick with these EMP charges. Has been in the past on this A point, but it's getting forced away quite quickly by Goku, who's doing a good job of both spy checking and dissuading the second that Sombra reveals herself. Roland's just initial positioning. Picks unavailable for either side, but one stray arrow from Luxstar very well could do it. They whiz by the head of Ken, but eventually the Hanzo gets taken down. A strong first dive by Ataraxia to open things up as Goku fades away.
Strong start from Ataraxia. That's exactly what they were looking for. That's exactly what they really needed in this moment as well. Also, getting these late staggered picks helps them out tremendously. We talk about momentum with a composition like this. This is exactly what they're getting for themselves. And getting this early on as well is just so important. Going to be so critical to set up for Ken, set up for Gala as well. See what they can do with what they've obtained for themselves. 0-4 Dash going to have to push through choke points, and they've already lost a body.
The res there onto Goku. Is it uncontested is probably the better question. No, Ataraxia topple on top of what was initially a good res, but not enough real resources there for 0-4 Dash to hold it, and all of a sudden, not looking too hot. I suppose a minute 30 off the clock here isn't too bad for 0-4 Dash, but I think they were certainly hoping for better.
Yeah, I think they would love that, but with the way this series is going, Dora, I have to say that I'm throwing all of that out the window. I mean, at this point, I think that if I'm Ataraxia, I'm willing to take whatever I can get.
Oh, yeah.
Ataraxia, I mean, they're setting up. They're going to have that EMP ready to go here, but again, all about execution. 0-4 Dash have made it so difficult. Suckrax coming back up as well makes it that much more difficult as well, and getting that value from the EMP once it does come out.
EMP available for Pastor has held them close to their chest for pretty much every fight that they can. Still not wanting to use it on Luke Star. They pay the price. Health goes down for it. Ataraxia, though, with the help of Ken at the helm, is getting so much done. Ken just seems indomitable, man. I do not know how you contest this Echo, this Tracer, whatever he's on. It's enough. A great hack as well denies the res. Be walking back.
That is incredible. Should be noted as well, still waiting on that EMP. Hasn't even been used from Pastor. Still holding on to that, but 0-4 Dash is going to make it. It's going to take even longer. Luke Star just eating them up. That's 3K from Luke Star there. 0-4 Dash just made it that much more difficult and made Pastor's life that much harder as well. I mean, we put so much emphasis a lot of times when you see these Sombras into the compositions on making sure that once it's up, you need to get that value. You need to be able to execute quickly, make that an efficient fight. But in reality, Ataraxia has been doing anything but, really.
It's too conservative. 0-4 Dash have taken advantage of it time and time again. Pastor as well got spy checked. Needs an EMP target, especially late into a fight that's getting messy. But because they held it, it's able to have been traded out calmly. Pastor is now translocated away. The cart's not moving. 0-4 Dash will get another set of respawns. Neutral fights, 0-4 Dash are so okay with. It's just time off the clock, and Ataraxia cannot afford that. Time is not on their side. Ken recognizes that, tries to step up to the play to duplicate onto the Tracer, which he got so much done with on the initial defensive side. Needs to deliver something big with this pulse bomb. With the help of Gala, they're able to, but Luke Star matches on the opposing side, trading out that kill onto the flex support. Ataraxia now re-up into the 4v4, trying to find some sort of dive with the help of this EMP, but there's still no targets, Urix!
Oh yeah, the Valks just make it that much more difficult as well. Goku goes down, but there's an opportunity to res this one here, and Haku might actually take it, but Ken follows him out as well.
Luke Star gets the trades yet again. This Tracer has stepped up beyond belief on this defensive side. On the beat point alone, has gotten immense value. Stays alive to contest the cart in moments like this. Finally topples. It was a Herculean effort by Ataraxia, though. One which still has not used EMP!
I can't believe it. We're still at 2 ultimates used. It's 1:48 left on the clock, and Pastor has not used a single EMP at all. At this point, you have to wonder if the Q button is okay on the keyboard. I mean, what's the deal?
I don't know. 3 minutes and a point C in their way. 0-4 Dash, a line in the sand that they may not allow Ataraxia to cross, or things get a lot more stressful for them later on in the series.
Junk swap as well. That actually is really good against the EMP as well. That shout can come out late, help protect the team. That can also instigate very quick engages, just rushing forward, maybe trying to see if they can find some pressure onto Gala in the back line. What can they do with it? They have Goku to help them out as well.
No EMP. 0-4 Dash, a proactive dive forward with the help of a duplicate from Goku. A decisive move in a critical moment.
I'm so stricken by the fact that we have not seen the EMP in the entire attacking phase from Ataraxia. We have no EMPs sent at all. Not one. And yet here we go. Pastor, this is the moment.
Count! Catches onto Sucrax. Goku followed up on as well. The EMP was everything they needed, but it's only the first of 2 fights, Yerks.
Yeah, 2 minutes still in the clock here. They still have to push their way forward. There is going to be a significant respawn advantage as well for 04 Dash, but I think the big question is, do they have the firepower to get out of their spawn, find a pick, and utilize that respawn advantage? Or are they just going to get ran down by the momentum? There's a pick, though.
Pastor down. Almost certainly for Ataraxia, they're not going to take this fight. Oh, it seems like they should be backing away in a lot of these situations, but a focusing beam gives them a chance. It's not quite there, though. Now you're worried that you might have overextended if you're Ataraxia, but you're all in at this point. You might as well go. Gala got the better of Lukestar. Ken got the better of Sucrax. All of a sudden, it's feeling like they had a chance. A fight that was 4v5 that they could have calmly backed away from. They went all in, and they may have just doubled up. 04 Dash trading back frantically, trying to take advantage of this spawn advantage that they have. And maybe it's enough. Maybe with the help of this Rampage, they can come back in, catch a foothold on this point, and end their series, end their strife here. Focusing beam does result in a pick onto Gala with the help of Lukestar. Like we said, Rampage is coming back in here in just moments. Ataraxia knows their time is running thin, backs away, cowers towards Ken, who offers them up a moment of reprieve, and now a re-engage with 45 seconds on, and but a dream for 04 Dash in this hold. The player set up. Chow looking for a bowling lane to send this Rampage down. A quick pause gives us a breath as we step into the final moments. Lukestar delivers! Chow, Goku, and Lukestar, they've all got tools. It's 30 seconds here. It's one more play is required.
And the only thing here Ataraxia really has, the only play at their disposal is sending a nano to Helve and hoping.
Nano boost in. Helve sends it down the backline, finds nothing. Lukestar knows he can end it here and now. Ken down, Helve to follow. 10 seconds fall by the wayside as Ataraxia can feel it slipping. 04 Dash have done it. They had one moment to shine on broadcast. They had one match to do it. 9 down, but it will not hit double digits. This loss streak ends now. 04 Dash end with their pride in hand.
1-9. They've got the win under their belt. Guess what? They still have another match, but this now just means so much for them. I mean, come on. This is a team that shouldn't have gone without a loss, and now they can finally say that they went and got their win. The one that they have been hunting, the one that they've been searching for, waiting on, working towards. They finally get it done. I can't believe it. I mean, against Ataraxia, too. This is the team that we had high hopes for at the end of last week. I mean, this was a team on the up and up. And here, they get stifled by the 12th place team that was without a win.
They could have done it against Pitbull Storm. They could have done it against Sheer Cold. They could have done it against Play. But no. Ataraxia. Oh, dude. The gap we perceived to be between these two teams was massive. I don't know what they had the last week. They played another match earlier today. They got 3-0'd. They just turned on the Jets when it mattered. Because they have only played one game on broadcast, Yerix, and it was this one.
Yeah, I mean, I had so many questions coming into this one, but oddly enough, this one leaves me with more questions than I started with, right? Because we came into this and it was like, how is this team not doing well? And then you watch this game and it's like, how come you guys haven't been doing this to everybody? Like, what's happening at this point? You know, what shifted, what snapped, what clicked? Like,
it wasn't even one thing either. It, like at the beginning of the series, it was the macro, it was the top-down positional play that they showed us. That was phenomenal through map 1 and map 2. But map 3 required an amount of muscle that I don't think we've ever seen from this team before. That performance on the defensive half from Lukestar, my
21 final blows for Lukestar. As magnificent as Ken was,
of those are defense. I had to have been.
Most of them were, because the first time that you mentioned Lukestar popping off, I looked over, he was at 11. And that was midway through the defense. At some point at that stage, he was at 11, and he ended with 21. So yeah, a significant portion of that was on the defense. And even before that, we saw Goku really kind of delivering and everything. And, you know, we talked about how Ken was just monumental and the successes that we did see from Ataraxia. He had 20 final blows. He was incredible statistically as well, and obviously passed the eye test. But holistically, it was all about 04 Dash and what they were able to do together as a team. And again, they look like a team that shouldn't have the record that they have.
Oh man, they've got the skills to back it up. Clearly, they were just saving it for us on broadcast. I don't know what else to say.
We should have broadcasted them more, man. We should have broadcast like 8 games from them, man. We might be looking at a different story.
Maybe then somebody could contend against Twisted Minds. Alas, it wasn't meant to be. We've got an interview with Luke Star coming up after this break. Talk a little bit about what this means to them.
Oh, hello! Fancy meeting you here. It's so nice to see ya. Are you ready to survive the wastelands? Then you'll need to bring your shotgun, your axe, and of course, your knife for your sharp wit, if you get my drift. Hey, whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold on there. Don't forget to pick up your Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Yeah, gearing up is as easy as connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. And after that, watching the Overwatch Contender Summer Series will contribute to your drop progression, letting you claim your own wasteland-ready Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Oh, that's right. It's time to rampage. Now, get out there and slay with the Overwatch Contenders Junker Queen skin. Okay, take care now. See you in chat.
Welcome back, everybody. Joyous celebrations for everybody but Ataraxia. But Ataraxia are actually in a pretty good spot to qualify, so they're probably celebrating too. Either way, we're here to celebrate with Luke Star. Luke Star, first off, congratulations. Is it more joy or more relief at the end of a match like that?
I mean, I think it's way more joy because, you know, we're not in a position to qualify for the playoffs anyway. So it's more of a joyous feeling, you know, being able to at least walk away with a single win. So far, you know.
Yeah, I kind of want to go like top down from this just really quick before we get into the nitty gritty. I mean, when we got into this, we had this thought of, okay, we see them dominating on that first round of control. Okay, we see them win control, but they've won control before. Let's see what they can do. Let's see where they can transition. We go into the map picks and okay, they get mapped to. Hold on for a sec. I mean, are you guys experiencing the same roller coaster of emotions behind the scenes that we are, or is it a little different for you guys?
No, I mean, I definitely think it's quite the same because I went into this match thinking like, oh, it is winnable. But you know, with how we played and honestly also like the way the players have been feeling on the team, you know, it was like it was a winnable game, but it was. Like rather far to reach. Like we had to pull something out of the kitchen.
Yeah. I mean that you guys did. Did it feel as well like you guys were helped along by the fact that look, you got that match out of the way, you lost the ability to qualify. Did that just feel like everything was out on the table, out of the kitchen? so to speak? Did it just relieve a lot of the pressure and make it easier to play this match, or did this still feel like an incredibly high pressure match for you by the end?
No, there hasn't really been any of our matches that has felt particularly high pressured, because we've honestly kind of went into the tournament with not that much of a try-hard attitude after the first week, going 0-4. So we've mostly been having fun with it. There was slightly more pressure because, you know, it was on stream, and after our dominant win on the first map, we were like, oh my god, like, guys, we can kind of do this, right? But like, we didn't want to get hyped up because we have won control before and then just flopped after. So.
we said the same exact thing. Like, your guys started again, and we're like, wait a minute, that was really, and then we just like we've seen it happen to a million teams before, where it's like, okay, the team that's not supposed to win, they win control, they look dumb, and then you're just like. It's gone south too many times. We pulled it back, and then it just kept going. And Nubati continued to look good.
It's 3 times. I think it was 3 times you guys won control and then lost the series right after. So it was like there was a special case there. But either way, I mean, getting away from the control stuff, I do want to kind of ask you about some of your impressions about how you guys transitioned from control into that second map, because again, you guys have been in that position before and then lost the series, but this time obviously was massively different. Did you feel the same kind of shift in momentum when you guys won point A that we felt off of not taking a single kill at all? I mean, you guys didn't kill anybody and took point A out of just sheer pressure. I mean, what was that?
Yeah, I mean, that definitely felt like really, really good, because Numbani is a map that we've really struggled with, because a lot of like when we've played in scrims and like other matches, I've always been on like Hanzo or Ash and stuff like that, and we talked about it going into the map, like, hey, I kind of don't want to play this. We've always struggled with Numbani like this. We don't really know how to play around the hit scan stuff. So I'm just gonna run it down on Tracer. So then when we locked down the point without taking a single kill, just pressuring the backline, that I was like, oh, this is gonna work. So
I mean, and it did. It got you guys to the third map, which leads me to like, look, I know you say you're having fun with these matches, but I mean, even y'all's heart had to be pounding heading into Route 66. You wanted to clean that up in 3, no?
Yeah, that is very true. We were definitely longing for our first win, because we've choked against teams that we thought were more winnable. So we definitely wanted to take a win, and I also think that everyone's just gonna go out of this match like really, really happy, seeing like, hey, we were having fun with it, but we also made sure to show what we're capable of in this match.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what you guys have done. I mean, we kind of opened this entire series talking about the potential that this roster has, and obviously there's so much talent here across the entire board. I mean, every single player is a good player, genuinely a good player, and I know we say that a lot of times about Contenders players, but that really is the truth with 04 Dash, and it was just so surprising that you guys had the season, or rather the round robin that you did. But I mean, what does this look like for you guys now? Because obviously things didn't go the way that you had planned, but this is a much better note to end on, I think, than you guys were thinking you were going to have probably an hour and a half ago.
That is very true, but unfortunately, I don't think there's gonna be much future for us as a team going forwards.
Right.
Because this match might as well have been a fluke in a way. Like we were having fun, and then everyone decided to turn it up, man. But a lot of the other matches and scrims we've played haven't really like felt particularly good. We've struggled a lot with just inside of the team. We haven't had the same motivation or like the same grind mindset across the team. So I don't think there's gonna be any chance that we're gonna stick together as a team going forwards. But this was definitely a relief, grinding out the win here.
What was the relief at the end like? Because following not just a strong 2 maps, but you guys put up an attack, and then at the end of that game, you had finished putting up one of the most impressive Tracer defenses I've seen on Route 66 in a fat minute. For you personally, what were those final 4 minutes like? Was it a blur? Was it you turning up? Did you eat oranges at halftime? Because at this point, we got to put you on a Wheaties box for what those final minutes were.
Like we kind of started out like I've actually mostly played Flex DPS throughout my entire career, and I've only recently swapped to Hitscan. So so I'm way more comfortable on Tracer than I am on a lot of the Hitscan heroes. I have way more experience on it. And after we lost the first fight on first point, and I died first. I got Sombra hack dove. I'm like, okay, I wanted to swap to something else, but then I'm like, hey, Tracer looks pretty good into this. Let me just go comfort pick and just pick up the lobby, and roll it around a bit.
Hey, I mean, if it worked on Numbani, why not try it again for map number 3? It was insane what we saw you have at the end there. Also, I loved that little pulse bomb flick that you had onto Ken after the recall, locked it down so that we couldn't have the Tracer recontest. I mean, just the level of play there at the end, it must have felt so good to end that. But obviously, a big win for you guys. Unfortunately, it doesn't really mean anything, but it does mean it a lot for us internally. I mean, yeah, no playoffs, but it's a big one. We loved watching you guys. You had a great performance. Congratulations for that, man.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was really fun.
Appreciate you popping in, man. Enjoy the win. Go celebrate. Go do what you do. We'll close things out here for EU. Hurix. Raspberry Racers versus Team Peps didn't go the way we didn't expected it to, but this certainly didn't either. I think we sacrificed one banger for another in this case.
Yeah, I know. We were kind of expecting. I know Team Peps wasn't expecting what we were expecting, but we kind of expected a little bit of a back and forth affair, at least more than what we got out of that first match. But Team Peps really locked that one down in 0-4 surprisingly as well, doing the exact same thing to a team that we anticipate is going to be making it into the playoff bracket as well. Let's take a quick look at the standings just to see how things just basically shook out throughout the course of the day. We do need to mention that there is still one more day left. There is one more round of matches that we will be seeing tomorrow. But with how things stand right now, this is where we're at.
Yeah, currently, and Triple are playing, and it's 2-2, so the middle standings are shaking up a bit. But we see a little bit more striation down there towards the bottom. It's that 8th, 9th spot that you're looking at. Raspberry Racers at 3 and 7 have picked one up that may just scrape them over the line here.
Everybody's locked in right now. As things stand, your top 8 are locked in. Everybody that you see there, that is exactly who is going to the playoffs. There is still some opportunity potentially for us to be able to see, okay, we might have some different seedings by the end of today or the end of tomorrow. But as it stands, your playoff teams are there. 1 through 8. That's who we'll be seeing next week. Or sorry, not next week, but once we get to the playoff bracket.
Raspberry Racers, it was the map differential that locks them in here too. It was picking up one off of everybody they came across. They pickpocketed enough maps to scrape them across. Even if Sheer Cold, like you said, does pick up a win, there's no chance they ever pick up that many maps like Raspberry Racers did. So yeah, credit where credit's due. Let's take a look at our schedule for tomorrow though. We got Twisted Minds up against EXO first. Who doesn't love a good first versus second banger? Seeing as we have things all locked up, that's the best match we have to show you. Following that, versus SR Peak Check should be just as good of a time.
Yeah, I think one of the only other matches that I'd be really interested in is Raspberry Racers taking on 0-4. That's the other match that's going on as well. That, man, I'm kind of curious about at this point, but based off what we just got to witness. But those, it'd be tough to beat either of those games. That is all of the top 4 right there. Twisted Minds, EXO, SR Peak Check. That is the top 4, no doubt, going into the bracket stage. So to get a really solid look at how those teams compete against one another, you couldn't ask for better.
Maybe we see one more map taken off of Twisted Minds. Maybe. Either way, let's take a look at what's shaking down later in NA. Because, of course, if you guys haven't, you should hit that subscribe button. They'll let you know when we're going live again, or the follow button if that's where you're at. Because we've got Saints up against 0-3 Splash and Wisp up against Amplify. 0-3 Splash, who I think alongside Pirates and Pajamas have been the 2 most interesting teams to just watch this season. 2 teams that have really upgraded and kind of taken rosters that were already showing signs of life in last season and taken them up a notch. I can't wait to watch those 2.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. Saints, obviously, not the top dog right now, so to see them kind of competing against one another, we'll have to see how that turns out. But yeah, a little bit of a shakeup in North America, so certainly want to be tuned in to everything that's going to go down there. You even look at all the way down the board, Timeless at 8th. That's the team that made it all the way to the finals in Spring Stage. So I mean, what is happening in North America? It's tough to say, but either way, you definitely want to make sure you do not miss any of those matches.
Now we've had, what is that, like back-to-back 2 of the most competitive seasons of North American Contenders just casually being put together. I don't know, man.
Wild
The past 2 seasons have been fantastic for NA. Either way, like we said, don't miss it. Hit subscribe, hit follow the Twitter, do all the other stuff that I usually tell you to do, and you know what? In a couple hours, see you for that.
You like solving problems. Problems like how to stop that tracer from deleting your backline. I know just what you're thinking. You'll bring a turret. But y'all can't solve all your problems by simply bringing an extra friend to the battlefield. For that, you need the Contenders Torbjorn skin. Solve your problems by connecting your Battle.net account to Twitch. After that, watching Overwatch Contenders Summer Series will contribute to your drops progress, letting you claim your Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin. Even your turret gets an upgrade. Warning, the Overwatch Contenders Torbjorn skin does not come with extra or upgraded turrets. Build instructions will not be provided. By picking Torbjorn, you waive a claim towards any destroyed turrets. No refunds, no exchanges, and no take-backsies.